The multiverse has a way of correcting itself, of balancing equations that should never have been written. When a Saiyan warrior's fist collides with an interdimensional entity's last desperate attack, when Kai flares so bright it tears holes in the fabric between realities, the universe doesn't ask permission, it simply acts. Goku had been sparring with Beerus above King Kai's planet, pushing Super Saiyan Blue to its absolute limit, when the god of destruction sneezed, a literal sneeze during a particularly intense exchange, connected with a Hakai blast at the exact moment Goku phased through it with instant transmission. The resulting cascade of divine energy and teleportation created something neither God nor Saiyan had anticipated, a rift that swallowed Goku whole and spat him out somewhere the Dragon Balls couldn't reach. He crashed into the planet at Mach 50, his blue aura flickering and dying as he tumbled through the atmosphere of an Earth that looked right but felt fundamentally wrong. The impact crater outside Arlington, Virginia, measured 300 feet across and registered as a 4.2 magnitude earthquake. Goku pushed himself up from the smoking earth, his gi torn and his hair fatting from divine blue back to black, and immediately sensed something terrifying. Nothing. No Kai signatures. No Vegeta's constant simmering intensity, no Gohan's gentle but immense power, no Piccolo's steady presence. Just emptiness. Well, not quite emptiness. There were faint sparks, barely registered flickers of life energy scattered across the continent, but compared to the blazing suns of power he was accustomed to, this world felt dim. "Okay," Goku muttered, climbing out of the crater and brushing moon dust, or was it Virginia soil, from his orange gi. "This is new. Wise, Beerus, King Kai." He pressed 2 fingers to his forehead, reaching out with his senses for any familiar energy signature to lock onto. Nothing. He was completely, utterly alone in a universe that didn't know what a Saiyan was. 300 miles away, in a subterranean facility buried beneath the Pentagon, every alarm in the Global Defense Agency headquarters screamed to life simultaneously. Director Cecil Stedman, a middle-aged man with gray hair and a perpetual expression of controlled paranoia, watched as satellite feeds showed the impact site and the impossible energy readings that had preceded it. The numbers made no sense. The object, no, the person, had hit the atmosphere with enough force to vaporize a city block, yet the readings showed a single humanoid signature now standing in the crater, apparently unharmed. "Get me visual confirmation," Cecil barked into his headset. "And somebody tell me what the hell just fell out of the sky with enough energy to make our nuclear detectors think World War III started." "Sir, the energy signature is, it's not radiation," one of his analysts stammered. "It's something biological, like he's a living reactor that just turned off." Cecil's eyes narrowed. "Humanoid male, approximately 5'9". Sir, he just looked directly at our satellite and waved." Cecil didn't believe in coincidences. Something that powerful arriving out of nowhere meant either an invasion or an opportunity, sometimes both. Get Invincible on the line, now. Mark Grayson had been in his college dorm room, trying to explain to his roommate why his essay on Victorian literature was 3 days late without mentioning that he'd spent those 3 days helping the Guardians of the Globe stop a Martian invasion fleet, when his communicator buzzed. Cecil's voice, terse and commanding, filled his ear. "We have a situation. Unknown superpowered individual impact site, Virginia. Preliminary readings suggest he's stronger than anything we've cataloged. I need you on site 5 minutes ago." Mark, invincible in the yellow and blue costume that marked him as Earth's newest premier hero, was already out the window before Cecil finished speaking. The sonic boom of his departure rattled windows across the campus as he accelerated toward Virginia, his mind racing. Stronger than anything they'd cataloged. That was saying something. The Guardians had faced Omni-Man. They knew what true power looked like. And the fact that Cecil sounded genuinely concerned, not just cautious, meant this was serious. He arrived at the crater in 4 minutes, hovering above the impact site with his fists clenched, ready for anything. What he found was not what he expected. A man stood at the center of the destruction, looking around with an expression of confused curiosity rather than malice. He was shorter than Mark, with wild black hair that defied gravity and simple orange and blue clothing that looked more like martial arts training gear than any superhero costume Mark had seen. The man's eyes, dark, sharp, but somehow friendly, locked onto Mark immediately. "Hey," Goku called out, waving with genuine enthusiasm. "You're the first person I've sensed with any real energy. Well, it's not much compared to back home, but you've definitely got something. You're a fighter, right? I can tell by the way you move." Mark descended slowly, keeping his distance. Cecil's voice crackled in his ear. "Invincible, be advised. Energy readings just spiked again when you appeared. He's reacting to you." "Who are you?" Mark called out, his voice steady despite the nervous flutter in his stomach. There was something about this guy, the way he stood, completely relaxed yet somehow coiled like a spring, that triggered every combat instinct his Viltrumite heritage had given him. "I'm Goku, Son Goku. I'm kinda lost, was training with Beerus and there was this crazy explosion and next thing I know I'm falling through some kind of tunnel and then I crash here. This is Earth, right? Looks like Earth, smells like Earth, but it feels different." Goku scratched his head, genuinely perplexed. "Where I'm from there are way more strong people. You're pretty strong though, wanna spar?" "Spar?" Mark blinked. Of all the things he'd expected, threats, demands, confusion, an immediate invitation to fight, wasn't it? You just crashed into the planet hard enough to register as an earthquake, and you want to spar. "Well, yeah." Goku's face lit up with pure, childlike joy. "It's been like 5 minutes since I had a good fight. Plus, you seem nice. Nice people make the best sparring partners. You don't have to worry about them trying to destroy planets or kill your family." He said it so casually, as if planet destruction was just an occupational hazard of his daily routine. Cecil's voice tight with tension. "Invincible, that is not a normal person. Proceed with extreme caution." Mark knew he should wait for backup. He knew he should stall, gather intel, follow protocol. But there was something about Goku's genuine, open demeanor that made him want to trust. Also, he was 17 and still figuring out this whole superhero thing. And if this guy was dangerous, better to find out now while Mark could maybe contain it. "Okay," Mark said slowly, "but just light sparring, no property damage, no." He didn't get to finish. Goku moved, not with malice, just with the casual speed of someone who spent his life fighting literal gods. One moment he was 20 feet away. The next, his fist was an inch from Mark's face, stopped with perfect control. Mark hadn't even seen him move. His Viltrumite instincts, honed through genetics and brutal training with his father, screamed danger. Mark swung hard, putting genuine strength into the punch. Goku leaned back just enough for the fist to pass harmlessly through the air, then tapped Mark's shoulder with 2 fingers. "You telegraph with your left shoulder," Goku said cheerfully. "Drops about half an inch before you commit. Easy to read once you know what to look for." That's when Mark realized he was in serious trouble. He threw a combination left jab, right cross, knee strike, exactly as Omni-Man had taught him, and Goku dodged every single attack without apparent effort, his hands clasped behind his back. The Saiyan was smiling, actually enjoying this, treating Mark like a student rather than a threat. "You're fast," Goku said, bobbing and weaving through strikes that could shatter concrete. "Faster than most humans I've met. You're not human though, are you? There's something different about your energy. Alien maybe. Oh man, are there aliens here? I love meeting aliens." Mark gritted his teeth and flew upward, trying to use his aerial advantage. Goku simply pushed off the ground and flew after him. No visible means of propulsion, no wings, no technology, just pure flight as natural as breathing. They spiraled upward through the clouds, Mark throwing everything he had into trying to land a single solid hit, and Goku treating it like a warm-up exercise. "Okay, my turn," Goku said, and flicked Mark's forehead with his index finger. The impact sent Mark rocketing backward through 3 clouds before he managed to arrest his momentum, his head ringing and his vision swimming. That flick, a casual, playful flick, had hit harder than some of the Mauler twins' strongest punches. Mark floated there, breathing hard, staring at Goku, who hovered 100 feet away, looking apologetic. "Sorry, still getting used to the power levels here. You okay?" "What are you?" Mark asked, his voice carrying a mix of awe and fear. "I told you I'm Goku, a Saiyan from Earth. Well, a different Earth, I guess. Things are really weird here." Goku's expression turned thoughtful. "You're strong, though, like way stronger than any human from my world who doesn't train in martial arts. If you actually trained with proper Kai control, you'd be amazing." Before Mark could respond, 6 more figures appeared in the sky. The Guardians of the Globe had arrived. Robot, Rex-Splode, Adam Eve, Duplicate, Immortal, and Black Samurai. They formed a loose perimeter around Goku, their postures defensive and ready. Mark saw Immortal's jaw clench, saw Rex's hands glowing with explosive energy, saw the way Robot's sensors were undoubtedly analyzing every molecule of the stranger. "Invincible," Robot's synthesized voice carried across the open air. "Step away from the hostile." "He's not hostile," Mark said quickly, floating between Goku and the Guardians. "He's just lost and really strong. Really, really strong." "Unknown entity," Robot announced, his mechanical body's weapons systems humming to life. "You have entered Earth airspace without authorization and attacked one of our heroes. Stand down for processing, or we will use force." Goku looked at the assembled heroes with genuine interest, his head tilting as he examined each one. "Wow, you guys are like a team. That's so cool. We have something similar back home. Well, we did until Beerus destroyed it because the food was bad, but the principle is the same." He waved enthusiastically. "I'm Goku. Nice to meet you all." "He attacked you?" Immortal asked Mark, his ancient eyes narrowed with suspicion. "No, yes, kind of. We were sparring," Mark explained, knowing how ridiculous it sounded. "He asked to spar and I said yes, and then he was way faster than me and I couldn't touch him and he flicked my forehead and it felt like getting hit by a train." The words tumbled out, his youth showing through his superhero persona. "You couldn't touch him," Robot repeated flatly, his sensors completing their analysis. "Invincible, your top recorded speed is Mach 3. You're saying this individual exceeded that casually." "He made it look easy," Mark admitted. Cecil's voice cut through everyone's communicators simultaneously. All units, energy signature just spiked again. Whatever he was holding back before, we're seeing it now. Readings are... There was a pause, the sound of frantic keyboard typing. "That can't be right. The number has a dozen zeros." Goku had sensed something. His head turned sharply toward the east, his entire demeanor shifting from playful to alert in an instant. "Something is coming," he said quietly. "Something with actual power. Finally, I was worried everyone here would be." He caught himself, looking apologetically at Mark. "No offense, you're all great, but I really need to fight someone at my level or I'm going to go crazy." "What's coming?" Immortal demanded, his hand moving to the sword at his hip, a weapon that had tasted the blood of monsters for millennia. Goku's answer was interrupted by 3 streaks of light that tore across the sky from the east, moving so fast they left sonic booms in their wake. They descended like meteors, landing in a triangle formation around the assembled heroes with impacts that cratered the ground and kicked up massive clouds of dust. When the debris cleared, 3 figures stood revealed. They were humanoid, tall and powerfully built, dressed in white and gray uniforms with a distinctive emblem on their chests. Their eyes held the cold calculation of predators who had never met anything they couldn't kill. Mark felt his blood turn to ice. He recognized that emblem. Everyone who knew the truth about Omni-Man recognized it. "Viltrumites." "Well," the leader said, his voice carrying the refined accent of someone who'd lived for thousands of years. "The energy signature was correct. There is something here worth investigating." His eyes locked onto Goku with predatory interest. "You, unknown, you will submit to the Viltrumite Authority for processing. Refuse, and we will reduce this city to ash as an example." Goku looked at Mark, confused. Are these guys villains? They feel strong, but they're talking like villains. They're worse than villains, Mark said quietly, his voice tight with fear. They're Viltrumites, world conquerors, my father's people. Oh, Goku's face brightened with understanding and excitement. So they're strong and bad guys. Perfect. He turned to face the three Viltrumites, cracking his knuckles with genuine enthusiasm. I was starting to think this universe didn't have any real fighters. Thanks for showing up. Let's see what you've got. The lead Viltrumite's expression shifted from bored superiority to confusion. You misunderstand your situation, primitive. We are Viltrumite warriors. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your planet is nothing. You are nothing. Yeah, Goku waved dismissively. Frieza said the same thing. So did Cell, and Boo, and Beerus before we became friends. You guys want to fight or just talk about how tough you are? What happened next would be discussed in Global Defense Agency briefings for years to come. The three Viltrumites, beings who could individually destroy continents, attacked in perfect synchronization, a coordinated assault perfected over centuries of conquest. They moved at speeds that made Mark look slow, their fists carrying enough force to shatter mountains. Goku blocked all three with one hand, his expression shifting from excited to analytical. Okay, he said, as the Viltrumite's fists pressed against his palm without moving him an inch. You're definitely stronger than most people here. That's good, but you're going to need to do better than that. Golden light erupted from Goku's body like a newborn star, his hair spiking upward and shifting from black to brilliant gold, his eyes turning turquoise, his power level expanding so dramatically that every satellite tracking the confrontation registered it as a nuclear detonation. The Viltrumites were blown backward by the sheer force of the transformation, tumbling through the air before catching themselves. Mark stared, his mouth open, his Viltrumite heritage telling him this was impossible. No biological being should be able to generate that much energy. The Guardians had collectively taken a step back, their instruments screaming warnings, their instincts telling them to flee. What is that? Robot's voice carried something unprecedented, uncertainty. That, Goku said, his voice carrying a slight echo of power, is Super Saiyan. Now we can have some real fun. The battle that followed redefined what everyone present understood about power. The three Viltrumites, warriors who had ended civilizations, fought with everything they had. They used tactics refined over millennia, struck with precision designed to exploit anatomical weaknesses, and coordinated their attacks to create impossible defensive situations. And Goku danced through it all, deflecting planet-destroying punches with casual grace, countering with strikes that sent Viltrumites crashing through mountains. One Viltrumite tried to fly toward the city, clearly intending to use hostages as leverage, a standard Viltrumite tactic. Goku appeared in front of him via instant transmission, a technique these warriors had never encountered. No, you don't, Goku said, and his punch sent the Viltrumite into low orbit, his body a streak against the stratosphere. The battle raged across 50 miles of Virginia countryside, the combatants moving too fast for normal human eyes to follow, their impacts registering as continuous earthquakes. Mark and the Guardians could only watch, their understanding of power scales fundamentally restructured. Immortal, who had fought in the Crusades and witnessed the rise and fall of empires, looked genuinely shaken. He's playing with them, Immortal said quietly. He's holding back and they can't touch him. It ended when Goku, clearly growing bored of the one-sided nature of the fight, powered up to Super Saiyan 2. Lightning crackled around his golden aura, his power doubling in an instant, and he systematically dismantled the three Viltrumites with clinical precision. Within seconds, all three were unconscious, their bodies broken but not dead, lying in smoking craters. Goku powered down, his hair fatting back to black, and looked genuinely disappointed. That's it. I thought you guys were supposed to be conquerors. You barely made me try. He turned to Mark. Are all the strong people in this universe like that? Because if so, I might go crazy from boredom." The words were barely out of his mouth when another figure descended from the sky, a figure Mark recognized with a mixture of complex emotions. Omni-Man, Nalin Grayson, Mark's father, the Viltrumite who had slaughtered the original guardians of the globe and revealed himself as an advanced scout for a galactic empire. Nalin looked at the three unconscious Viltrumites, then at Goku, his expression unreadable. "I felt the battle from the other side of the planet," he said quietly. "3 of our warriors were defeated in minutes by an unknown fighter." His eyes, ancient and calculating, studied Goku with the intensity of someone analyzing a new species of predator. "What are you?" "I'm Goku," Goku said cheerfully, apparently unaware of or unconcerned by the tension that had gripped everyone else at Omni-Man's arrival. "You're strong too, way stronger than those 3. Want to spar?" "Mark," Nalin said, not taking his eyes off Goku. "Get the Guardians and evacuate to a minimum safe distance." "Dad, wait." "Now, Mark." Nalin's voice carried the weight of command, the authority of someone who'd lived for thousands of years. Then, to Goku, "You just defeated 3 Viltrumite warriors. Do you understand what that means?" "That there are stronger fighters here than I thought," Goku's grin widened. "That's great news." "It means," Nalin said slowly, "that you've just declared war on the Viltrumite Empire, an empire of warriors like me. An empire that spans galaxies and has never been defeated." He paused, letting that sink in. "And judging by your reaction, you're excited about that." Goku's response was immediate and genuine. "Well, yeah, an entire empire of strong fighters. That sounds awesome." In the underground facility, Cecil Stedman watched the satellite feed and made a decision that would change Earth's fate. "Get me every asset we have on Viltrumite psychology and warfare. And somebody find me a way to communicate with that Goku without Omni-Man knowing. We just found the one thing that might actually scare the Viltrumites." He paused, lighting a cigarette with shaking hands. "God help us all." Far above Earth, passing through the solar system on a routine patrol, Alan the alien's sensors detected an energy signature that should have been impossible. His ship's computer, designed to track Viltrumite movements across the galaxy, registered the battle and the unprecedented power readings. Alan stared at the data, his 3 eyes widening. "The Coalition needs to know about this immediately," he said to his ship's AI. "We might have just found the weapon that can end the Viltrumite threat, or the thing that destroys the galaxy trying." The coordinates were set for the Coalition of Planets headquarters. The message was sent. And in a universe where power usually meant conquest and strength meant tyranny, a Saiyan warrior who fought for the joy of battle had just arrived to upset every calculation, every plan, every prophecy. Goku stood in the Virginia countryside, surrounded by unconscious Viltrumites, facing down Omni-Man while the Guardians of the Globe watched in awe and terror, and thought about his wife Kai, his sons Gohan and Goten, his friends Krillin and Piccolo and Vegeta. He thought about Earth, his Earth, and how much he missed it. But he also thought about the fight he'd just had, the promise of stronger opponents to come, and the way this universe seemed to be absolutely filled with people who needed someone strong enough to protect them from cosmic-level threats. "So," Goku said to Omni-Man, his hands slipping into a ready stance that had faced gods and survived, "before we spar, can someone explain to me what's going on? Because I get the feeling I just stepped into something complicated." Mark flew forward, positioning himself between his father and Goku, a gesture of protection that didn't go unnoticed. "It's complicated," Mark said. "Really, really complicated. But the short version is, the Viltrumites want to conquer Earth. My dad is one of them. Those 3 you just beat were scouts. And you just became the biggest threat to their empire anyone's ever seen." "Huh," Goku said, processing this. Then he smiled, that pure, genuine smile that had preceded some of the most destructive battles in his universe's history. "Well, I guess I'd better get to know you guys then. If I'm going to be here for a while, might as well make friends. Plus," His eyes gleamed with barely contained excitement. "Sounds like I'm going to get some really good fights out of this." Omni-Man's expression shifted, something like respect mixed with profound concern crossing his features. "You have no idea what you've started." "Probably not," Goku agreed cheerfully. "But that's never stopped me before, so who wants to show me where I can get some food? I'm starving." And just like that, the Invincible Universe's power balance had shifted forever. The Global Defense Agency's secure briefing room, buried 300 feet beneath the Pentagon, had witnessed countless crisis meetings over the years. Cecil Stedman had stood at this same podium briefing presidents on alien invasions, dimensional incursions, and rogue superhuman threats. But nothing in his 30-year career had prepared him for explaining to the Joint Chiefs of Staff that Earth's survival might depend on a cheerful man in an orange gi who treated planetary-level threats like exciting training opportunities. "Gentlemen," Cecil began, the holographic display behind him showing frozen frames of Goku's battle with the Viltrumites, "what you're about to see represents either Earth's greatest asset or our most dangerous liability, possibly both." He clicked through images showing Goku's transformation, the golden aura, the casual deflection of attacks that could level cities. Subject designation, Son Goku. Origin, unknown, claims to be from an alternate Earth. Power assessment, unprecedented. Our best analysts estimate he's operating at approximately 40% capacity during that engagement. 40%? General Morrison's face had gone pale. "Those 3 Viltrumites could individually destroy our entire nuclear arsenal before we could launch. You're telling me this individual is holding back?" "Substantially." Cecil pulled up biometric data, though the numbers seemed almost nonsensical. "His energy output during transformation peaked at levels our equipment literally cannot measure. We had to recalibrate every sensor within 200 miles because they all registered critical failures. And according to Invincible's debrief," he nodded toward where Mark sat at the table's end, still in costume, looking exhausted, "this Super Saiyan form is just one of multiple transformations." Mark cleared his throat, drawing attention from the assembled military brass. At 17, he was by far the youngest person in the room, and the weight of their collective stares made him acutely aware of it. He mentioned someone named Beerus casually destroying things during training, and there was something about multiple enemies who said the same stuff the Viltrumites did, threats about conquest and power before Goku beat them. He talked about it like it was normal. Like fighting planet-destroying monsters was just what he did on weekends. "Where is he now?" Morrison demanded. "Eating," Mark said, unable to keep a note of incredulity from his voice. "We took him to a restaurant in Richmond. He's on his 14th plate of food. The owner thinks we're filming a competitive eating show." Cecil's expression remained neutral, though Mark caught the slight twitch of his eye that meant the director was deeply, profoundly disturbed. Subject exhibits a metabolism that defies known physics. He processes nutrients at an accelerated rate consistent with someone who regularly expends enough energy to vaporize small moons. Which brings us to the critical question. What does he want? "To go home," Mark said immediately, "and to fight strong opponents while he's here. That's it. He's not interested in conquest or money or power. He just wants good fights and to protect people because," Mark paused, remembering Goku's exact words, "heroes are supposed to protect people, right? That's what Gohan always says." "Gohan?" Cecil asked. "His son, I think. He mentioned him when we were flying to the restaurant, talked about his family like he really missed them." Mark leaned forward. "Cecil, I know how this looks. Unknown superhuman with god-level power shows up out of nowhere. Trust me, I get it. But I fought him. Well, tried to fight him. And he could have killed me in the first second if he wanted to. Instead, he gave me pointers on my fighting stance." Robot's synthesized voice cut through the discussion, his mechanical body positioned at the room's edge where he'd been silently analyzing data. "I've completed preliminary analysis of the energy readings during combat. The mathematical models are fascinating. Subject Goku's power doesn't just increase linearly during transformation, it appears to multiply exponentially. Each form represents not an addition of strength but a geometric progression. He displayed equations that made several generals' eyes glaze over. Furthermore, his combat efficiency is remarkable. Zero wasted movement, optimal energy distribution, tactical awareness that suggests either precognitive abilities or combat experience measured in decades, possibly centuries. He said he's been training since he was a kid, Mark offered. In his universe, martial arts isn't just a sport, it's how you survive. He mentioned fighting aliens when he was 12. 12. Cecil lit a cigarette, a habit he'd supposedly quit 5 years ago, but that seemed to resurface during every major crisis. We need to establish clear parameters for engagement. Robot, continue analysis. Invincible, you've established rapport, maintain that relationship, but do not reveal classified information about our defensive capabilities or strategic assets. If he asks about Earth's power structure, keep it general. He doesn't care about power structure, Mark said. He asked me who the strongest fighters on the planet were. That's it. When I mentioned governments and the GDA, he looked confused. Politics doesn't register for him. Everyone cares about power, General Morrison said firmly. It's human nature. He's not human, Robot corrected. He's Saiyan, and based on behavioral analysis, his species appears to have fundamentally different motivational hierarchies. Combat prowess, personal growth through challenge, and protection of allies, these seem to be his primary drivers. Typical human motivations like wealth accumulation, social status, or political influence don't appear on his psychological profile. That makes him unpredictable, Cecil said, and unpredictable superhumans are dangerous. Mark stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He's not dangerous, he's just different. You didn't see how he fought those Viltrumites. He could have killed them instantly, but he held back enough to just knock them out. And when one of them tried to fly toward the city, tried to threaten civilians, Goku was faster than anything I've ever seen. He teleported, just appeared in front of the guy and stopped him before any hostages could be taken. Teleportation, Cecil's eyes narrowed. That wasn't in your initial report. There's a lot that wasn't in my initial report because it happened too fast to process. He calls it instant transmission. He locks onto energy signatures and just moves there instantaneously. Mark ran a hand through his hair, the stress of the day catching up to him. Look, I know you don't trust him, I get it. But my Viltrumite instincts, the ones I inherited from my dad, are telling me something important. Goku isn't a conqueror, he's a warrior. There's a difference. Before Cecil could respond, an alarm klaxon blared through the facility. Red lights strobed across the briefing room's walls as a priority alert flashed on the main display. Unauthorized dimensional breach, global airspace. A figure materialized on the holographic display, tall, powerfully built, with orange skin and 3 eyes that seemed to contain the weight of 1,000 battles. He wore a coalition of planets uniform, and his ship, sleek and advanced beyond any Earth technology, hung in low orbit, cloaked but radiating an energy signature that the GDA's satellites had somehow detected. This is Alan, the alien coalitionist and champion evaluation officer. The being's voice came through on open frequencies, broadcasting to every major government on Earth simultaneously. I am here on official coalition business regarding the energy signature designated as Saiyan class anomaly. I request an immediate audience with the entity known as Son Goku and Earth's planetary defense leadership. This is not an invasion. Repeat, this is not an invasion, but time is critical. The Viltrumite Empire will have detected the same energy spike that brought me here, and their response will be substantially less diplomatic. Cecil's cigarette had burned down to the filter unnoticed. He crushed it out and looked at Mark. Get Goku, now, and tell the restaurant we're covering his tab. Goku was indeed on his 17th plate when Mark found him, the restaurant staff hovering between amazement and concern, as the strange martial artist demolished enough food to feed a small army. He'd drawn a crowd, locals who'd heard about the eating contest, and came to watch, completely unaware that the friendly man in the orange gi was currently the single most powerful being on their planet. "Goku," Mark said quietly, sliding into the booth across from him. "We need to go. Someone's here to see you. An alien from something called the Coalition of Planets." Goku looked up from a massive plate of barbecue ribs, his expression brightening. "Another alien. Is he strong?" The last aliens, those Viltrumite guys, were pretty disappointing after the first few minutes. "I don't know if he's strong," Mark admitted, "but he seems to know what you are, called you a Saiyan-class anomaly." "Huh, that's specific." Goku polished off the ribs in 3 bites, wiped his mouth with a napkin and stood. "Guess I should talk to him. Thanks for the food. This Earth has really good barbecue. Different spices than back home, but I like it." He waved to the restaurant staff, who waved back with shell-shocked expressions. The owner, a middle-aged woman named Martha who'd been feeding Richmond for 30 years, approached Mark as they headed for the door. "Is he okay? I mean, I've seen competitive eaters before, but that was something else. Should I be worried about his health?" "He's fine," Mark assured her. "Better than fine, that's just how he is." He left cash on the counter, GDA emergency funds, enough to cover the meal 3 times over, and followed Goku outside. They met Alan the alien at a secure GDA facility on the outskirts of Richmond, a location chosen specifically because it was far enough from population centers to minimize casualties if things went wrong. The coalitionist stood in the center of the landing pad, his 3 eyes tracking Goku's approach with intense interest. "You're him," Alan said, his voice carrying a note of awe. "The energy signature. I've been monitoring Viltrumite territories for years, and I've never seen anything like what registered during your battle. The Coalition's sensors flagged it as a potential superweapon activation." Goku tilted his head, studying Alan with the same curious intensity. "You're pretty strong. Not as strong as those Viltrumite guys, but you've got good energy. You train a lot, right? I can tell your power is refined, not just raw." Alan blinked, clearly not expecting the conversation to start with a compliment about his training regimen. Yes, I'm the Coalition's designated champion evaluation officer. My species, the Anapans, are naturally durable, but I've spent decades conditioning my body to fight Viltrumites." He paused. "You defeated 3 of them in minutes, seasoned warriors who have conquered dozens of worlds. How is that possible?" "Training mostly," Goku said with a shrug. "And good teachers. And almost dying a bunch of times. That really helps you grow stronger if you're a Saiyan. We get these things called Zenkai boosts whenever we recover from near-death injuries. Makes us tougher each time." "You've nearly died multiple times." Alan's expression shifted from awe to concern. "And each time made you stronger. That's the most Saiyan thing I've ever heard, and I've never even heard of Saiyans before today." Cecil Stedman emerged from the facility's entrance, flanked by Robot and several armed guards, though what they expected to accomplish with conventional weapons against beings who could shrug off nuclear warheads was unclear. "Alan the alien, your reputation precedes you. The Coalition has been attempting to establish diplomatic relations with Earth for several years. You've been politely declining because you're worried about Omni-Man," Alan said bluntly. "I understand. Nolan Grayson is a complicating factor, but circumstances have changed dramatically." He gestured toward Goku. "This individual represents a paradigm shift in the galactic power balance. The Viltrumite Empire has been the dominant military force for millennia because nothing could stand against them. Individual Viltrumites are nearly unstoppable. An empire of them is apocalyptic." He locked eyes with Cecil. "But he just beat 3 of them while barely trying. Do you understand what that means?" "It means Goku's a target," Mark said quietly, the pieces clicking together in his head. "Every Viltrumite in the Empire is going to come after him." "Not just Viltrumites," Alan corrected. Every faction in the galaxy that's been waiting for anyone, who could challenge Viltrumite supremacy will want to recruit him, study him, or eliminate him before the Viltrumites can weaponize him. The Coalition, the Ragnar, the Flaxens, the Sequids, everyone is going to want a piece of this. Goku scratched his head, looking genuinely confused. Why would they want to study me? I'm just a martial artist. If people want to get stronger, they should train. That's what I do. Robot's optical sensors whirred, focusing on Goku with mechanical precision. You genuinely don't understand your strategic value, do you? You're not just strong, you're a deterrent. A single individual who can counter the Viltrumite Empire's primary tactical advantage. I just like fighting strong people, Goku said, his tone almost apologetic. And helping people when they're in trouble. That's what heroes do, right? Alan laughed, a short, sharp bark of sound that held equal parts admiration and disbelief. You're actually serious. You're the most powerful being I've encountered in 15 years of Coalition service, and you have the tactical sophistication of a child. He held up a hand before anyone could take offense. I mean that as a compliment. The universe is full of beings who crave power for conquest, for control, for domination. You just want to fight and protect people. It's refreshing. Terrifying but refreshing. So what happens now? Mark asked. You said the Viltrumites would respond. How long do we have? Alan's expression turned grim. Based on standard Viltrumite protocols, they'll send a scouting report to the nearest regional commander within hours. That commander will assess the threat and likely escalate to Grand Regent Thrag within a day. Thrag will want confirmation. He's methodical, paranoid, and brilliant. He'll send a specialist team to verify the initial reports and gather intelligence. He paused. I'd estimate 72 hours before you see real Viltrumite attention. And when I say real attention, I mean warriors who make those 3 scouts look like children. Perfect. Goku's face lit up. That gives me time to explore, meet more people, maybe find some training partners. He turned to Mark. You said your dad is one of these Viltrumites, right? Is he around? I'd love to spar with him. He felt way stronger than those other 3. A heavy silence fell over the group. Mark's expression became carefully neutral, the practiced mask of someone who'd learned to hide complicated emotions. My dad is complicated. He's not exactly on our side right now, or their side. He's kind of in between. In between? Goku asked. Omni-Man Nolan Grayson was sent to Earth as an advance agent for the Viltrumite Empire, Cecil explained, his tone clinical. His mission was to weaken Earth's defenses and prepare the planet for conquest. He spent 20 years here, married a human woman, had a son. He nodded toward Mark. And then revealed his true allegiance by murdering the Guardians of the Globe, Earth's premier superhero team. Goku's expression darkened, his casual demeanor shifting to something more serious. He killed heroes. He killed my friends, Mark said quietly. People I looked up to. Then he tried to make me join him in conquering Earth. When I refused, we fought. I barely survived. He unconsciously rubbed his ribs, remembering the sensation of his father's fists breaking bones that were supposed to be nearly unbreakable. He left Earth after that. Last I heard, he was somewhere in deep space. Doesn't answer Coalition hails, doesn't respond to Viltrumite summons, just out there. Goku's eyes, usually warm and friendly, had gone cold in a way that made even Alan take an involuntary step back. He hurt you, his own son. It's complicated. No, Goku said, his voice carrying an edge that none of them had heard before. It's not complicated. I've got 2 sons, Gohan and Goat. I've fought a lot of enemies. Some of them wanted to destroy the Earth. Some wanted to kill everyone I loved. But I would never, ever hurt my kids, not to make them join me, not for any reason. He looked at Mark with sudden understanding. That's why you're scared of him, not just because he's strong, because he's your dad and he chose conquest over you. Mark swallowed hard, not trusting himself to speak. Robot interjected, his synthesized voice cutting through the emotional moment with characteristic tactlessness. While this is touching, we should focus on tactical concerns. Alan, You mentioned the coalition wants Goku's assistance against the Viltrumites. What specifically are you proposing? The coalition has been fighting a defensive war against Viltrumite expansion for decades, Alan explained, grateful for the change of subject. We've lost hundreds of worlds, billions of lives. Our best strategy has been to avoid confrontation and use guerrilla tactics. But if we had someone who could actually defeat Viltrumites in combat, someone they couldn't just shrug off, we could shift from defense to resistance. Maybe even turn the tide. You want me to fight a war, Goku said slowly. I want you to help protect innocent civilizations from genocidal conquest, Alan corrected. But yes, essentially it would be war. Goku was quiet for a long moment, his expression thoughtful. Back in my universe, I've fought a lot of battles, saved Earth a bunch of times from people trying to destroy it or take it over, but I never thought of it as war. It was just protecting people, stopping bad guys. He looked at Alan. These Viltrumites, they really kill billions of people. They conquer entire planets. They don't just conquer, Alan said grimly. They purge. Any planet that refuses to submit gets its population reduced to a manageable number, usually around 500,000 individuals, enough to serve the Empire, small enough to control. The rest are exterminated. I've seen the aftermath of Viltrumite pacification campaigns. Entire species reduced to slave populations working to fuel an empire that will eventually discard them. Mark watched Goku's expression change, saw the easygoing martial artist confronted with a reality that didn't fit into neat categories of strong opponent and good fight. This was uglier than tournament brackets and honorable combat. This was genocide dressed in military efficiency. And my dad knew about this, Mark said, not quite a question. He was okay with it. Viltrumites are raised from birth to believe in their supremacy, Alan said, not unkindly. They're taught that weakness deserves extinction, that their way is the only way. Some of them genuinely believe they're bringing order to chaos. He paused. Some of them just enjoy the killing. Goku's fists clenched at his sides, and for just a moment his power level spiked, not dramatically, but enough that everyone with the ability to sense energy felt it like a pressure wave. I need to think about this, he said. Where I come from, I fight to protect Earth and my friends. Sometimes I fight because someone's stronger and I want to test myself. But war, he trailed off. That's different. Take your time, Cecil said, surprising everyone. We're not going to press you for an immediate decision. Alan, the coalition can wait 24 hours for a response, yes. Alan nodded reluctantly. 24 hours, but no longer. The Viltrumites won't wait, and neither will the other factions. Every hour that passes is another hour for intelligence to spread across the galaxy. Then Goku spends tonight as our guest, Cecil decided. We'll provide quarters, answer any questions he has about Earth and the current situation, and reconvene tomorrow for a formal discussion. He looked at Goku directly. You're not a prisoner. You're free to go wherever you want, but I'd appreciate it if you stayed close, for everyone's safety. Sure, Goku said, his usual cheerfulness not quite returning. I don't really have anywhere else to go anyway. As the meeting broke up, Mark found himself walking beside Goku toward the temporary quarters the GDA had prepared, a small apartment complex that had housed visiting superhumans before. You okay? Mark asked. That was a lot to take in. I'm just thinking, Goku admitted. In my universe, when bad guys show up, it's usually pretty clear. They attack, I fight them, we find out who's stronger. But this is more complicated. An empire, billions of people, politics. He sighed. I'm not good at complicated. Kai always handled the complicated stuff. I just trained and protected people when they needed it. Kai's your wife. Yeah, she's tough, way scarier than most of the enemies I've fought actually. Goku smiled at the memory. She'd know what to do here. She always knows what to do. They walked in silence for a moment before Mark spoke again. For what it's worth, I don't think you should feel pressured to help the coalition. You didn't ask to be here. This isn't your fight. Goku stopped walking, his expression thoughtful. You know what Gohan told me once? He said that having power means you have a responsibility to use it to help people, that it's not about being the strongest or winning all the fights, it's about protecting the people who can't protect themselves. He looked at Mark. If what Alan said is true, if the Viltrumites really are killing billions of people, can I really just ignore that because it's not my universe? You barely know what's going on here, Mark argued. You're lost, separated from your family, stuck in a universe that doesn't make sense to you. Nobody would blame you for staying neutral. Would you? Goku asked simply. Stay neutral, I mean. If you could help people but chose not to, would you be okay with that? Mark thought about his father, about the choice Nalan had made to value Viltrumite supremacy over human life. He thought about the Guardians, about the people who died because his father chose Conquest. No, he admitted. I wouldn't be okay with it. Me neither, Goku said. Guess we're both just built that way. They reached the apartment complex, and Mark was about to say goodnight when alarms erupted across the facility. Red lights strobed, and Cecil's voice came over the emergency broadcast system. All personnel to defensive positions. Multiple high-velocity objects are entering Earth's atmosphere. Trajectory indicates deliberate navigation. Impact sites across North America in T-3 minutes. Goku and Mark exchanged glances and were airborne in seconds, rocketing toward the sky where they could see the streaks of light cutting through the upper atmosphere. Not meteors, these were too controlled, too purposeful. They're not waiting 72 hours, Mark said, his voice tight. Good, Goku's battle-ready grin returned. I was getting bored anyway. How many do you count? Mark's Viltrumite vision could pick out individual objects at incredible distances. 8, no 9, all Viltrumite energy signatures. His blood ran cold. Goku, these aren't scouts. These are assault units. The 9 Viltrumites touched down across a 50-mile radius, their landing sites chosen with tactical precision, major population centers, military installations, and infrastructure hubs. The message was clear: submit or watch your civilization burn. But they hadn't accounted for one critical variable. The 9 Viltrumites, warriors who'd spent centuries conquering worlds, suddenly felt something they hadn't experienced in a very long time, a power level that dwarfed their own, rising like a golden star over the Virginia countryside. Goku powered up to Super Saiyan in mid-flight, his transformation visible from orbit as golden light erupted across the night sky. His voice, amplified by Kai, reached every Viltrumite simultaneously. I don't know what you guys are planning, but you need to leave. Now. I don't want to hurt you, but I will protect these people. The response came from the lead Viltrumite, a scarred veteran named Craig who'd personally conquered 17 worlds. His voice carried the absolute confidence of someone who'd never lost. You defeated 3 scouts. Impressive for a primitive, but we are the Viltrumite Empire's elite assault force. Your power means nothing against our experience and tactical coordination. Stand down or be destroyed. Okay, Goku said, and there was something in his tone that made Mark's Viltrumite instincts scream danger. You asked for it. What followed would be recorded by every satellite, every news camera, every smartphone across North America. Goku moved through the 9 Viltrumites like a force of nature, his strikes precise and devastating, his defense impenetrable. He used instant transmission to appear behind opponents, solar flare to blind groups, and when one Viltrumite tried to grab a hostage from a nearby city, Goku's Kamehameha wave intercepted him mid-flight, a beam of blue energy so intense it lit up the night sky like a second sun. The battle lasted 7 minutes. When it ended, 9 Viltrumite warriors lay unconscious across the Virginia countryside, their invincible bodies broken but still breathing. Goku had held back enough to avoid killing them, but not enough to leave any doubt. He was operating on a completely different level. Cecil watched from the command center, his hands shaking slightly as he lit another cigarette. Get those Viltrumites into containment before they wake up, and someone tell me we recorded everything. I want that footage analyzed frame by frame." Robot's voice came through the comm. "Director, we have a problem. The battle was visible from satellites across the globe. Multiple nations are demanding explanations. More concerning, our deep space monitoring stations detected several ships changing course toward Earth. Word is spreading. How long until the galaxy knows we have a Saiyan? Conservatively, it already knows. We're tracking communication bursts across multiple star systems. Earth just became the most strategically significant planet in this sector of space." In orbit, Alan the alien sat in his ship, watching recordings of the battle with 3 eyes wide with amazement. "The coalition is going to lose its mind," he muttered. "He's not just strong, he's decisive, strategic, and he genuinely holds back to avoid killing. That's," he trailed off, searching for words, "that's the exact opposite of Viltrumite philosophy. He's what they could be if they chose honor over conquest." On the ground, Mark found Goku standing amidst the unconscious Viltrumites, his golden aura fading back to normal. "You okay?" Mark asked. "Yeah," Goku said, though his expression was troubled. I tried to give them a chance to leave. They chose to fight anyway, chose to threaten people." He looked at the defeated warriors. "In my universe, even the bad guys usually have some kind of reason for what they do. Vegeta wanted to prove he was the strongest. Frieza wanted to rule. Cell wanted perfection, but these guys, they just wanted to conquer because that's what they do. There's no honor in it." "Welcome to the Viltrumite Empire," Mark said bitterly. "Conquest for conquest's sake, power for power's sake." Goku's expression hardened with resolve. "Alan said I have 24 hours to decide about helping the coalition. I've decided. These Viltrumites aren't going to stop. And if I can help protect people from them, then that's what I'm going to do." "You sure?" Mark asked. "Once you commit to this, you're making yourself a target for the entire empire. Thousands of warriors like my dad, all coming after you." Goku's grin returned, that familiar, confident smile that had faced down gods and survived. Thousands of strong opponents. Sounds like good training. In the stars above Earth, in the cold void between worlds, sensors tracked the transmission of battle data across the galaxy. The Viltrumite Empire's communication networks lit up with urgent messages, priority alerts, and strategic assessments. And in a throne room on a conquered world light-years away, Grand Regent Thrag, oldest of the Viltrumites, strongest of his kind, architect of 1,000 genocides, watched the footage of Goku's battle with cold calculation. "Interesting," Thrag said, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. "Very interesting indeed." He turned to his assembled commanders. "Recall the assault force. Cancel all operations in that sector. I want full intelligence on this Saiyan before we proceed." His eyes, ancient and merciless, gleamed with predatory interest. "And summon Conquest. Tell him I have a special assignment for him." The message was sent. The trap was being set. And Goku, standing on a world not his own, preparing to fight a war he didn't fully understand, had no idea that he just attracted the attention of the one being in the universe who might actually be able to kill him. The pieces were moving. The galaxy was watching. And Earth, fragile and vulnerable, sat at the center of a cosmic storm that was only beginning to gather. The coalition of planets' headquarters existed in a pocket of stabilized space-time, anchored to no single world but accessible from 1,000 different star systems through quantum-linked portals. It was a marvel of cooperative engineering, dozens of species contributing their unique expertise to create something greater than any one civilization could achieve alone. The Central Council Chamber, a vast amphitheater carved from crystallized void stone that somehow transmitted light without reflecting it, currently hosted the most urgent emergency session in Coalition history. Alan the alien stood at the speaker's podium, his 3 eyes scanning the assembled representatives from across the galaxy. Anapans, Thraxans, Martians, Tailscreans, and 100 other species filled the tiered seating, their attention fixed on the holographic display showing Goku's battle with the 9 Viltrumite warriors. The footage had been played 3 times already, and each viewing prompted fresh waves of disbelief. "The energy output measurements are verified," Alan reported, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was presenting. "Conservative estimates place subject Goku's combat capability at 15 times standard Viltrumite baseline. His transformative abilities suggest multiple tiers of power access, with the golden form, designated Super Saiyan, representing only his initial escalation. Intelligence suggests additional forms exist." Thetis, the Coalition's strategic commander, and one of the few beings old enough to remember the Viltrumite Empire's first conquests, leaned forward in his seat. His scarred face bore the marks of 100 battles, and his voice carried the authority of someone who'd spent centuries fighting a losing war. "You're telling this council that a single individual, a previously unknown species, has demonstrated combat superiority over elite Viltrumite forces." "Not just superiority," Alan corrected. "Overwhelming dominance. He defeated 9 assault-class warriors in 7 minutes while simultaneously protecting civilian populations from collateral damage. Analysis of his movement patterns indicates he was holding back significantly to avoid lethal force. He pulled up tactical breakdowns, highlighting moments where Goku could have killed but chose non-lethal alternatives. He fights with restraint, even against enemies committed to genocide." A Thraxan counselor, her insectoid features clicking with agitation, spoke up. "This changes everything. If the Coalition could recruit this Saiyan, we could finally push back against Viltrumite expansion, liberate occupied worlds, end their reign of terror." "Or," a Martian representative countered, his telepathic voice resonating in everyone's minds, "we could provoke them into total war. Thrag has maintained a strategy of calculated conquest precisely because no single force could challenge Viltrumite supremacy. Introduce a variable that threatens that supremacy, and we may see them abandon restraint entirely." Alan nodded grimly. "That's the strategic dilemma. Goku represents either our greatest hope or the catalyst for galactic-scale warfare. The question is whether we can afford not to recruit him." "What do we know about his psychology?" Thetis asked. "Motivation, loyalty, long-term objectives." "He's refreshingly straightforward," Alan said, unable to keep a note of fondness from his voice. "He wants to fight strong opponents, protect innocent people, and find a way home to his family. He has no interest in politics, conquest, or power accumulation. He treats combat as a form of personal growth rather than domination." "He sounds naive," the Thraxan counselor observed. "He sounds dangerous," the Martian corrected. "Beings with that much power and that little political sophistication can be easily manipulated. What happens when someone convinces him that genocide is necessary for protection, or that conquest is a form of safeguarding?" Alan thought about Goku's reaction to learning about Viltrumite atrocities, the way his expression had shifted from confusion to cold anger. "I don't think he's that easily fooled. He's simple, not stupid. There's a difference." Before the debate could continue, alarms shrieked through the chamber. Emergency protocols activated, sealing the council room as holographic displays erupted with urgent data streams. A communications officer's panicked voice cut through the chaos. "Multiple Viltrumite signatures detected. They're using a quantum slip approach. They're already inside our defensive perimeter." The ceiling of the council chamber exploded inward. 3 Viltrumites descended through the breach, their white and gray uniforms pristine despite having just punched through 6 layers of military-grade shielding. The lead warrior, a female with a scar bisecting her face, landed on the podium where Alan stood, forcing him to leap backward. "Coalition scum," she announced, her voice carrying contempt refined over centuries of supremacy. "You've been harboring intelligence on a strategic asset that belongs to the Viltrumite Empire. The Saiyan designated as Son Goku is hereby claimed as property of Grand Regent Thrag. Any attempt to recruit, harbor, or communicate with him will be considered an act of war. Thetis was on his feet, his hand on his weapon. You attack a diplomatic session and make demands. The coalition doesn't recognize Viltrumite authority over. The Viltrumite moved faster than most eyes could track, her hand closing around Thetis's throat. The coalition doesn't recognize anything because the coalition is a joke, a collection of inferior species clinging to the delusion that democracy and cooperation can challenge strength. She lifted him off the ground with one hand. But we'll make this simple. Stand down, provide all intelligence on the Saiyan, and we'll kill only half of you. Resist, and we'll reduce this station to atoms. Alan's fists clenched. He was strong, had trained for decades to be strong enough to challenge Viltrumites, but 3 of them in an enclosed space with hundreds of civilians. He'd watched the carnage unfold too many times before. The math was brutal and simple. And then something impossible happened. A golden light erupted in the center of the council chamber, not from any entrance or portal, but simply materializing as if reality had decided a Saiyan warrior belonged there. Goku stood with 2 fingers pressed to his forehead, his Super Saiyan transformation already active, his expression serious in a way that made the temperature in the room seem to drop. "Let him go," Goku said quietly, his eyes locked on the Viltrumite holding Thetis. "Right now." The female Viltrumite's expression shifted from contempt to calculation. "The Saiyan, you tracked us across interstellar space. I felt your energy signature spike when you attacked," Goku explained, his voice still calm but carrying an edge of restrained violence. "I told Alan I could sense power levels across huge distances. I wasn't kidding. When you 3 started fighting, it was like a beacon." He took a step forward. "Now let him go. I won't ask again." "You presume to give orders to Viltrumite warriors." The female's grip tightened on Thetis's throat. "I am Kreia, daughter of Thrag, slayer of the Ragnar homeworld. You may have defeated scouts and assault units, but you face elite bloodline warriors now. We do not." Goku disappeared. Not with instant transmission this time, he simply moved so fast that eyes couldn't track him. One moment, he was across the chamber. The next, his hand was gripping Kreia's wrist with enough force to make her bones creak. Her eyes widened in shock as she realized she couldn't break his grip. "I said," Goku repeated, his power level rising with each word, "let him go." The other 2 Viltrumites attacked simultaneously, their coordination perfect after centuries of fighting together. Goku caught one's punch with his free hand, redirected the other's strike with his shoulder, and in one fluid motion, disarmed Kreia and threw all 3 Viltrumites through the wall of the council chamber. They tumbled into space, and Goku followed, his golden aura protecting him from the void. The assembled coalition representatives rushed to the breach, watching through emergency force fields as the battle unfolded in the vacuum outside their station. The 3 Viltrumites recovered quickly, spreading out to attack from multiple angles, a standard tactic designed to overwhelm single opponents. But Goku wasn't a standard opponent. He met their coordinated assault with a defensive technique they'd never encountered, the multiform jutsu, splitting himself into 3 separate entities. "That's impossible," Kreia snarled, trading blows with one of Goku's copies while her companions engaged the others. "You can't be in 3 places at once." "It's a technique I learned from a friend." Goku's voice came from all 3 forms simultaneously, not as powerful as fighting together, but useful for even odds. The battle raged across the void, the combatants moving at speeds that bent light, their impacts releasing energy that registered on sensors across a dozen star systems. But where the Viltrumites fought with brutal efficiency honed over millennia of conquest, Goku fought with adaptability born from facing opponents who evolved mid-battle, who transformed and transcended limits. When Kreia tried to use a nearby asteroid as a projectile weapon, Goku's Kamehameha vaporized it before it could threaten the coalition station. When her brother attempted to grapple and use his superior mass, Goku demonstrated the Kaioken technique, a red aura overlaying his golden one, multiplying his already absurd power by a factor of 20. "What are you?" Kreia demanded, her composure finally cracking as she struggled to defend against Goku's onslaught. "How can you have this much power?" "I trained," Goku said simply, "every day for my entire life. I've fought gods and monsters, survived impossible odds, died and come back stronger. I've pushed past every limit I thought I had." His expression softened slightly, even in the midst of combat. "You're strong, really strong. But strength isn't just about raw power. It's about pushing yourself to grow, to be better than you were yesterday." "Growth," Kreia's laugh was bitter. "Viltrumites are born superior. We don't need to grow." "That's your problem," Goku said, and drove his fist into her solar plexus hard enough to send her careening toward a distant moon. Her companions rushed to intercept her trajectory, and in that moment of distraction, Goku's three forms merged back into one. He powered down from Kaioken, his golden aura settling back to its steady Super Saiyan glow, and raised his voice so it carried across the void. "I don't want to fight you. I don't want to hurt you. But if you keep threatening innocent people, if you keep trying to conquer and kill, I'll stop you. Every time. No matter how many of you there are." The three Viltrumites regrouped, floating in formation, their bodies battered but already beginning to heal. Kreia's eyes held something new, not fear exactly, but wariness, the recognition that she faced something unprecedented. "This isn't over," she said. "Grand Regent Thrag will hear of this. He will come for you himself. And when he does, you'll learn the difference between defeating soldiers and facing the oldest, strongest Viltrumite who has ever lived." "Looking forward to it," Goku said, and his grin, that familiar, excited smile, returned. "He sounds really strong." The three Viltrumites departed, their retreat calculated rather than panicked. They'd gathered intelligence, tested the Saiyan's capabilities, and survived to report their findings. As they disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Goku floated back to the Coalition station where Alan stood at the breach, his three eyes wide with amazement. "You came," Alan said. "We didn't call for help, didn't ask for intervention, you just came." "You guys seemed like you were in trouble," Goku said with a shrug. "Besides, I told you I'd help protect people from the Viltrumites. That includes you guys." He looked past Alan to where the assembled Coalition representatives stood in stunned silence. "Also, I wanted to ask you something. These Viltrumites, how many worlds have they conquered?" Thetis, rubbing his throat where Kreia's grip had nearly crushed his windpipe, stepped forward. "Thousands, across multiple galaxies. They've been expanding for nearly 10,000 years." "And how many people have they killed?" The Martian representative's telepathic voice was heavy with sorrow. "Trillions. Conservative estimates place Viltrumite-caused deaths at 3 trillion sentient beings. The actual number is likely higher." Goku was quiet for a long moment, processing numbers that his mind, used to protecting one planet, one solar system, struggled to comprehend. "Trillion," he repeated softly. That's more people than have ever lived on my Earth." "They are a galactic plague," the Thraxan counselor said. "They spread across the stars, consuming civilization, reducing proud species to servitude or extinction. The Coalition exists because individual worlds cannot stand against them. Together, we can at least slow their expansion, save some planets, and preserve some cultures." Her voice hardened. "But we cannot win. Not without something that can challenge their military supremacy." "Something like me," Goku said. "Yes," Thetis confirmed. "Like you. I watched you fight 3 elite warriors, Thrag's own bloodline, and you weren't even trying. If you joined the Coalition, truly committed to fighting the Viltrumite Empire, we could turn the tide. We could liberate occupied worlds, dismantle their infrastructure, break their stranglehold on the galaxy." Alan put a hand on Goku's shoulder. "But it would be war, real war. Not tournaments or one-on-one battles. Strategic campaigns, civilian casualties despite your best efforts. impossible choices about which worlds to save and which to abandon. It would be ugly in ways that fighting gods and monsters back home never was. Goku looked at the coalition representatives, hundreds of species, each one representing billions of lives threatened by Viltrumite expansion. He thought about his sons, about Gohan's words regarding responsibility and power. He thought about Earth, his Earth, and how many times he'd fought to protect it from threats that wanted to conquer or destroy. Back home, Goku said slowly, I've faced a lot of enemies. Some of them became friends eventually, Piccolo, Vegeta, and even Beerus weirdly. They changed because they saw there was another path besides conquest and destruction. He looked at Alan. Do you think the Viltrumites can change? If I beat them enough times, if I show them that strength doesn't have to mean domination, could they become something better? The Martian's telepathic laugh was sad. We've been trying to change them for millennia, Goku. They don't want to change. Their culture, their entire identity, is built on supremacy. Asking a Viltrumite to abandon conquest is like asking them to stop breathing. Vegeta was a conqueror, Goku countered. Worked for Frieza, destroyed planets, killed people without mercy. Now he's got a family, protects Earth, and barely admits it, but he cares about people. If he can change, maybe they can too. Or maybe, Theta said gently, your friend Vegeta was the exception, not the rule. Maybe sometimes cultures are too broken, too committed to their own cruelty to be redeemed. It was an ugly thought, one that went against everything Goku fundamentally believed about giving people chances, about redemption and second opportunities. But he'd also seen what happened when mercy was extended to those who wouldn't accept it, had watched Frieza betray every chance at peace, had fought Cell's return after offering him time to power up, had faced Majin Buu's pure destructive chaos. I need to see for myself, Goku decided. I'll help you fight the Viltrumites. I'll protect the worlds they're trying to conquer, but I'm going to give them chances to surrender, to walk away, to choose something different. His expression hardened. And if they don't take those chances, if they keep choosing to kill and conquer, then I'll stop them, permanently if I have to. The chamber erupted in discussion, representatives arguing about strategy, deployment, and resources. But Alan just looked at Goku with a mixture of admiration and concern. You really think you can change an empire built on 10,000 years of supremacy? Probably not, Goku admitted. But I have to try. That's what heroes do, right? They try, he grinned. Besides, worst-case scenario, I get to fight a bunch of really strong opponents. That's not a bad backup plan. Back on Earth, in a secure GDA facility, Mark Grayson sat across from his mother, Debbie Grayson, in a visiting room that felt more like an interrogation chamber. She'd been brought in for debriefing after Goku's departure. The GDA wanted to understand any potential Viltrumite psychology, insights she might have from her 20-year marriage to Omni-Man. He just left, Debbie asked, her voice carrying a mother's concern for the strange warrior who'd briefly protected her world. Teleported across space to fight more Viltrumites. He sensed them attacking the coalition, Mark explained. Just pressed his fingers to his forehead and disappeared, left a note saying he'd be back. Mark pulled out his phone, showing the hastily scribbled message Goku had left. Felt something bad happening far away. Going to help. Don't eat my leftovers. Goku. Despite everything, Debbie smiled. He's like a child with godlike power. That's what makes him dangerous. Cecil interjected from where he stood by the door. Children make decisions based on emotion and immediate perception. They don't think strategically. Goku sees the Viltrumites as bullies to be stopped, not as a systemic threat requiring coordinated response. Maybe that's exactly what we need, Debbie said softly. Everyone else, the coalition, the GDA, the governments, you're all thinking about politics and strategy and acceptable casualties. Goku just thinks about protecting people. There's something pure about that. Mark thought about his father, about Nolan's cold calculation when he'd explained the Viltrumite mission to conquer Earth. How many of Omni-Man's decisions had been justified by strategic necessity? How many atrocities rationalized by the greater good of Viltrumite supremacy? "Mom," Mark asked quietly, "did Dad ever talk about other Viltrumites? About who was strongest, who he respected?" Debbie's expression clouded with painful memories. He mentioned Thrag once, called him the oldest, the most powerful, said that Thrag had personally killed civilizations that thought they could resist. She met her son's eyes. He said it with respect, Mark, like Thrag's ability to destroy was something to admire. Robot's voice came through the comm system. "Speaking of Thrag, we've detected unusual Viltrumite activity. A single ship moving with deliberate speed toward Earth. ETA, 36 hours. Energy signature suggests a high-value target." Cecil's expression tightened. "Thrag himself?" "Unknown, but whoever it is, they're not rushing. This is a statement arrival." Mark felt ice form in his stomach. Goku had beaten scouts, defeated assault teams, and driven off elite warriors. Each victory had bought Earth time, but also escalated the Viltrumite response. And now something, was coming that didn't feel the need to hurry. In the vast darkness of space, aboard a Viltrumite warship that had seen 1,000 conquests, Conquest stood at the viewport, watching Earth grow larger in the distance. He was massive even by Viltrumite standards, 8 feet of muscle and scar tissue, his face bearing the marks of battles that would have killed lesser warriors. He'd earned his name through a simple philosophy: total, absolute, merciless conquest. Thrag's orders had been clear: test the Saiyan, determine his limits. If he can be broken, break him. If he can be recruited, recruit him. If he poses an existential threat to the Empire. Thrag had paused, his ancient eyes cold as the void. Then kill him and everyone he's fought to protect. Make it clear what happens when inferiors challenge Viltrumite supremacy. Conquest smiled, his teeth sharp in the starlight. He'd heard the reports: a warrior who transformed, who fought with honor, who held back to avoid killing. Weaknesses, all of them. Honor was a luxury only the strong could afford, and holding back meant you'd already lost. "The Saiyan wants to protect Earth," Conquest murmured to himself. "Good, that gives me leverage." Behind him, restrained in energy fields designed to contain Viltrumite-level strength, 9 captured aliens from various species watched with terrified eyes. Conquest's strategy was simple and brutal: force the Saiyan to choose between fighting at full strength and protecting innocents. The warrior had held back in every engagement so far, limiting himself to avoid casualties. Conquest would turn that mercy into a weapon. "Prepare the hostages," he ordered his subordinates. "When we arrive, I want them positioned across major population centers. The Saiyan will have a choice: fight me and risk their deaths, or hold back and die himself." His grin widened. "Either way, the Empire wins." Goku returned to Earth 6 hours later, materializing in the GDA facility where Mark and the others had been waiting anxiously. He looked tired, not physically exhausted, but mentally worn in a way that combat rarely achieved. "How'd it go?" Mark asked. "I saved the Coalition station," Goku reported. "Fought 3 more Viltrumites. They were tougher than the others, better trained. One of them was related to this Thrag guy everyone keeps mentioning." He sat down heavily. "They're sending someone called Conquest. The Coalition warned me about him, said he's different from the others, more brutal, doesn't care about honor or fair fights." Cecil materialized the latest intelligence on holographic displays. Conquest, real name unknown. Viltrumites often abandon birth names when they achieve significant status. Estimated age, over 3,000 years. Confirmed kill count, 847 worlds pacified through extreme prejudice. Images cycled showing the aftermath of Conquest's campaigns, civilizations reduced to ash, entire species extinct. "He doesn't conquer to rule, he seeks to destroy." "And he's coming here," Mark said, "in 36 hours. To test you," the robot added, his analysis complete. "The Viltrumite Empire has escalated systematically: scouts, assault teams, elite warriors, and now a legendary champion. They're gathering data on your capabilities with each engagement, learning your patterns, identifying weaknesses. What weaknesses? Goku asked, genuinely curious. I haven't really been pushed yet. Those fights were warm-ups. Exactly, Robot said. That's the weakness. You're so much stronger than standard Viltrumites that you're not taking them seriously as threats. You're treating each engagement as training rather than warfare. But warfare isn't about individual strength. It's about exploiting vulnerabilities, creating impossible scenarios, forcing choices that have no good outcomes. Goku frowned. What kind of choices? Mark answered before Robot could. Hostages. Conquest will bring hostages, or threaten cities, or create situations where you have to choose between fighting him and protecting innocent people. It's standard Viltrumite tactics when facing superior force. Goku's fists clenched. That's cowardly. If he wants to fight me, fine, but bringing innocent people into it is exactly what he'll do, Cecil interrupted. Because it works. You've held back in every fight to avoid collateral damage. Conquest will turn your compassion into a tactical disadvantage. Goku was quiet for a long moment, wrestling with the ugly reality of warfare versus the honorable combat he was accustomed to. In his universe, even the worst villains usually respected certain boundaries. Vegeta had let him get stronger, Frieza had faced him one-on-one, and Cell had given the Z-Fighters time to prepare. The idea of deliberately targeting innocents to gain an advantage felt fundamentally wrong. There has to be a way, Goku said finally. Some technique or strategy that lets me protect people and beat Conquest at the same time. Instant transmission, Mark suggested. You can teleport. If he's holding hostages in different locations, you could evacuate them faster than he can react. That requires knowing where they are, Robot countered, and maintaining enough concentration to lock onto multiple energy signatures while fighting a Viltrumite champion. Possible, but risky. Alan's voice came through on the communication channel. The Coalition had established a direct line to Earth after Goku's intervention. I've fought Conquest twice, barely survived both encounters. He's not just strong, he's patient. He'll study you for hours if needed, looking for patterns, waiting for fatigue or distraction. And he heals fast, even by Viltrumite standards. You'll need to end the fight decisively, or he'll wear you down. How do I fight someone like that? Goku asked the question directed at everyone and no one. In my universe, the answer was always get stronger, train harder, unlock a new form, push past limits. But this isn't about raw power. I'm already stronger than him. It's about, he struggled for the word. Ruthlessness, Cecil supplied. It's about being willing to do whatever it takes to win, regardless of cost. That's the Viltrumite advantage. They don't have your moral restraints. Debbie spoke up from where she'd been quietly listening. Then don't fight like them. Don't abandon your morals to beat an opponent who has none. That's how you become what you're fighting against. She looked at her son, then at Goku. Both of you have power that could destroy worlds. What makes you different from the Viltrumites isn't just strength. It's choosing to use that strength to protect rather than dominate. Don't let Conquest take that away from you. Goku looked at her with sudden understanding. You're right. If I start making the same choices they do, treating people as acceptable losses, killing without trying other options, then I'm just another conqueror with a different flag. He stood, his expression resolute. I'll fight Conquest. I'll protect everyone I can, and I'll do it without compromising who I am. That's admirable, Robot said, his synthesized voice carrying a rare note of respect. But idealism doesn't win wars. Maybe not, Goku admitted, but it's won me a lot of fights, and right now that's going to have to be enough. The next 36 hours passed in preparation. The GDA evacuated high-risk population centers, deployed defensive assets, and established emergency protocols. The Coalition provided intelligence on Conquest's tactics and fighting style. Mark trained with Goku, trying to learn some of the Saiyan's techniques while sharing what he knew about Viltrumite psychology. And Goku meditated, centering himself, preparing not just physically but mentally for a battle that would test more than his strength. He thought about his family, about the promise he'd made to Kai to come home safely. He thought about Gohan's words about responsibility and power. Most of all, he thought about the 3 trillion deaths the Viltrumites had caused, and the countless billions more they would cause if someone didn't stop them. When Conquest's ship entered Earth's atmosphere, every sensor on the planet registered its arrival. The Viltrumite champion descended slowly, deliberately, his massive form silhouetted against the sun. In his wake, 9 capsules were deployed, each one containing a hostage from a different conquered species. They landed in a perfect circle around Washington, D.C., each capsule positioned in a major population center: hospitals, schools, government buildings. The message was clear: fight me here and millions die in the crossfire. Conquest himself touched down in the center of the Pentagon, his impact cratering the building's courtyard and triggering every alarm in the facility. When he spoke, his voice carried across the city, amplified by technology or perhaps just by the sheer force of his will. Saiyan, I am Conquest, champion of the Viltrumite Empire, herald of Thrag's will. I challenge you to single combat. Refuse and I will reduce this city to ruins. Accept and I will spare these structures. He gestured to the capsules visible in the distance. Oh, and I've brought guests. 9 hostages from 9 different worlds we've conquered. Fight me seriously and they die from our clash. Hold back and you die. Choose. From a rooftop 3 miles away, Goku stood in his fighting stance, Super Saiyan aura already ignited, his expression serious as he studied his opponent. This Conquest was different, not just stronger but colder, more calculating. There was no warrior's pride in his stance, no respect for combat, just brutal efficiency. So what's it going to be, Saiyan? Conquest called out. Will you sacrifice innocence for victory, or sacrifice yourself for compassion? Either way, the Empire learns what we need to know about you. Goku's hands moved into a familiar position, palms cupped at his side, energy beginning to gather. You want to know what makes me different from you? He called back. You think strength is about choosing who lives and who dies, but real strength, the energy between his palms grew brighter, swirling with blue power, is protecting everyone, no matter how impossible it seems. Impossible is just another word for weakness, Conquest sneered. Let me show you what real power looks like. He moved, and the battle for Earth's survival began in earnest. Conquest's opening move wasn't a punch or a charge. It was a statement. He flew upward at controlled speed, his massive frame cutting through the air with the confidence of someone who'd ended civilizations, and drove his fist through the roof of the Washington Monument. The historic structure, symbol of American resilience and democracy, collapsed in a cascading failure of stone and metal that sent debris raining across the National Mall. Every second you hesitate, Conquest's voice boomed across the city, I destroy another landmark, another symbol, and when I'm done with monuments, I start on schools. Goku's response was immediate. He used instant transmission to appear directly in front of Conquest, his palm striking the Viltrumite's chest with enough force to send him rocketing backward through 3 buildings before he could arrest his momentum. But Goku wasn't following up. He was already gone, reappearing at the collapsed monument where his hands moved in rapid sequence, forming barriers of concentrated Kai that caught falling debris before it could crush the terrified tourists below. Clever, Conquest acknowledged, hovering amidst the destruction he'd caused. You're fast enough to protect and fight, but are you fast enough to do both while I escalate? He flew toward the Capitol building, and Goku intercepted him mid-flight with a Kamehameha wave that painted the sky blue. Conquest tanked the blast, his Viltrumite durability absorbing energy that could have vaporized mountains, and emerged with his skin smoking but his grin intact. That's all you got, Conquest taunted, but Goku noticed the slight tremor in the Viltrumite's left arm. The blast had done damage, not enough to stop him, but enough to hurt. Good. That meant he could be worn down. In the GDA command center, Cecil watched multiple screens showing the battle from dozens of angles. Status on the hostage capsules. Heavily shielded, Robot reported, his sensors unable to penetrate whatever Viltrumite technology protected them. Attempting to breach remotely, but the encryption is beyond current Earth capabilities. Estimated time to manual override, 4 hours. We don't have 4 hours, Mark said, already in costume. Goku's holding back because he knows those capsules are rigged. If he goes all out, Conquest triggers them. Then we need to neutralize the threat, Cecil decided. Invincible, take the Guardians. Split up 1 capsule each. Get those hostages out before Conquest can use them as leverage. Mark nodded and was out the window in seconds, his voice coming through the comm to the assembled Guardians. You heard the man. Rex, you're on the capsule at Georgetown University. Eve, the one at the hospital. Immortal, the Pentagon. Wait, that's where they're fighting. I'll manage. Immortal's ancient voice carried grim determination. Been fighting monsters for 3,000 years. 1 more Viltrumite won't kill me. It might, Robot interjected with characteristic bluntness. Conquest is exponentially more dangerous than standard Viltrumites. Engage only to extract the hostage, then retreat. This is a rescue operation, not a combat mission. The Guardians scattered across Washington, D.C., each racing toward their designated capsule while above them, Goku and Conquest carved contrails of destruction across the sky. Every clash sent shockwaves that shattered windows for miles. Every energy blast left scorch marks visible from orbit. But Goku was fighting with one hand tied behind his back, and Conquest knew it. You're strong, Conquest admitted, blocking a punch that cratered the street below them. Stronger than anyone I've faced in 1,000 years, but you're predictable. You'll always choose to protect over destroy. Always pull your punches to avoid collateral damage. He drove his knee into Goku's stomach, using the opening created by the Saiyan's defensive positioning. That's why you'll lose. Goku coughed, the impact actually hurting despite his Super Saiyan durability, and grabbed Conquest's leg before he could retreat. You talk too much, Goku said, and swung the Viltrumite like a hammer into the Potomac River. The impact displaced enough water to flood the embankment, and Goku followed up with a diving kick that drove Conquest 60 feet into the riverbed. They emerged seconds later, both dripping wet. Conquest's armor cracked, and Goku's gi was torn. They hovered above the churning water, circling like predators, and for a moment, the only sound was the distant sirens and the roar of displaced water filling the crater they'd created. The hostages, Conquest said conversationally, as if they were discussing the weather rather than warfare. Do you know what species they are? The one in the hospital capsule is a Thraxan mother. Thraxans live only 9 months total. She's already spent 3 months in that capsule waiting. The one at Georgetown is a young Martian, probably terrified out of his mind since his people are naturally claustrophobic. He tilted his head, studying Goku's reaction. Thrag chose them specifically. Maximum psychological impact per casualty. You're sick, Goku said, his power level rising, golden aura intensifying. Using innocent people as weapons. I'm practical, Conquest corrected. War isn't about honor, Saiyan. It's about winning. The Viltrumite Empire has endured for 10,000 years because we understand that simple truth. Whatever it takes to win, you do it. At Georgetown University, Rex Splode approached the capsule cautiously, his hands glowing with explosive energy, ready to detonate the locking mechanism. The capsule was 7 feet tall, cylindrical, and made from some alloy that his powers couldn't quite identify. Through the transparent section, he could see a figure inside, humanoid, young, with the distinctive green skin of a Martian. Okay, Rex muttered to himself. Just need to find the release mechanism without triggering any traps, get the kid out, and... The capsule's external display lit up with Viltrumite script that robot immediately translated through Rex's comm. Proximity alert. Authorized personnel only. Unauthorized tampering will result in immediate capsule destabilization. Robot, Rex said carefully, not moving his hands from the mechanism. What's destabilization mean in Viltrumite? In this context, likely thermal detonation or atmospheric venting. Either the capsule superheats to lethal temperatures or it voids all air. The hostage dies in approximately 30 seconds. Robot's voice remained analytical, but Rex heard the underlying tension. I recommend extreme caution. Yeah, thanks for that, Rex said, and began the delicate process of analyzing the locking mechanism, while very aware that one wrong move would kill the terrified Martian child watching him through the transparent section. Across the city at the hospital, Adam Eve faced a different problem. Her molecular manipulation powers could theoretically disassemble the capsule at the atomic level, but the energy signature surrounding it suggested some kind of reactive shielding, messing with the molecules, and the shield might interpret it as an attack. Eve, Cecil's voice crackled through her comm. Status. The capsule is surrounded by an energy field I've never seen before, Eve reported, her pink aura flaring as she analyzed the structure. It's reacting to my powers defensively. If I push too hard, it might. The Thraxan mother inside the capsule placed her hand against the transparent section, her insectoid features unreadable, but her body language clear. Desperation. She was dying, had been dying for months, and this capsule was simultaneously prison and life support. I'm going to try something, Eve said, and began carefully, molecule by molecule, creating an opening in the capsule without disrupting the energy field. It was precision work that required her to split her consciousness between maintaining her own powers and not triggering Viltrumite fail-safes. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she worked, aware that one mistake would kill a mother who'd already lost everything to Viltrumite Conquest. Meanwhile, at the Pentagon ground zero of the battle between Goku and Conquest, Immortal faced the most dangerous extraction. The capsule sat in the cratered courtyard where Conquest had first landed, positioned deliberately where any attempt to rescue the hostage would put someone directly in the combat zone. This is insane, Immortal muttered, but he'd faced worse odds during the Crusades, had fought monsters that made Viltrumites look tame. He flew low and fast, using debris from the destroyed monument as cover, and reached the capsule just as Goku and Conquest's battle brought them crashing back to ground level 50 yards away. The impact shook the earth, sent Immortal sprawling, and nearly made him lose his grip on the capsule. Inside, he could see a Unopa, Alan's species, watching with three eyes wide with terror as Titans fought close enough to feel the heat of their attacks. Almost there, Immortal said, his ancient hands working the capsule's locking mechanism with the patience of someone who'd lived 3 millennia. Just need to. Conquest's fist, intended for Goku, missed and struck the ground 10 feet from Immortal. The shockwave sent the ancient warrior flying, his body crashing through a parked military vehicle hard enough to crumple steel. He felt his ribs crack, bones that had survived Egyptian spears and Roman swords, broken by the backwash of a punch meant for someone else. But Immortal was true to his name. He pulled himself from the wreckage, spat blood, and flew back to the capsule, because that's what heroes did. They got up. Goku saw Immortal's struggle and made a split-second decision. He let Conquest's next punch connect, really connect, not just a glancing blow, and used the impact to position himself between the Viltrumite and the capsule. The punch drove him backward into the Pentagon's wall, the impact creating a crater 30 feet across, but it gave Immortal the 3 seconds he needed to activate the emergency release. The capsule opened, and the Unopan hostage scrambled out just as Immortal grabbed them and flew upward, barely avoiding Conquest's follow-up strike that obliterated the now empty capsule. One down, Goku said, wiping blood from his mouth. That punch had hurt, had actually damaged him through Super Saiyan durability. Conquest was stronger than he'd initially assessed. 8 to go. You think saving one hostage changes anything? Conquest laughed, the sound harsh and without humor. I have 8 more, and you're already bleeding. How long can you keep this up, Saiyan? How long before you have to choose between your morals and your survival? In the command center, robot screens showed successful extractions at 3 locations. Rex had somehow managed to disarm his capsule's locking mechanism using precise explosive charges. Eve had molecular manipulated her hostage to safety, and Immortal had gotten clear with the Unopan. But 5 capsules remained, and the security on each one was adapting, getting smarter. They're learning from our attempts, Robot reported. Each successful rescue teaches the capsule AI new defensive protocols. The remaining 5 will be exponentially harder to breach. Then we need to buy more time, Cecil said. How long can Goku keep Conquest occupied? Unknown, Robot admitted. Goku is stronger, but Conquest is experienced. This isn't a question of power, it's a question of endurance and tactical flexibility. And Goku is fighting at a severe disadvantage. Mark had just finished evacuating civilians from around his designated capsule when he felt something that made his Viltrumite heritage scream warnings. A massive energy signature approaching Earth at faster-than-light speeds. Not just one signature, dozens, maybe hundreds. Cecil, Mark said urgently into his comm. We have incoming. Multiple Viltrumite signatures, ETA less than 10 minutes. The line was silent for a long moment. When Cecil spoke, his voice carried the weight of someone making impossible calculations. How many? I can't count them all. At least 50, maybe more. They're moving in formation. This isn't a random response. It's an invasion force. On the battlefield, Conquest's grin widened as he too sensed the approaching armada. You felt them, didn't you? My brothers and sisters coming to witness your death or your surrender. Thrag sent them as observers, but they'll intervene if you manage to beat me, which you won't. Goku's expression hardened. 50 Viltrumites. He could beat one, had beaten groups of 3, but 50, while protecting hostages and an entire city. The math was brutal. I don't surrender, Goku said quietly, and his power level began to rise. The golden aura of Super Saiyan intensified, lightning beginning to crackle around him, the telltale sign of Super Saiyan 2. And I don't let people die because some empire thinks strength means the right to kill. He moved faster than Conquest could track, his fist connecting with the Viltrumite's jaw hard enough to send him into low orbit. Goku followed via instant transmission, appearing above Conquest and driving him back down with a two-handed strike that cratered the Potomac riverbed again, this time deep enough to expose bedrock. But even as he fought, Goku's mind was racing. 50 Viltrumites meant he couldn't hold back anymore. Meant he'd have to fight at full capacity, which meant the remaining hostages were at risk. Unless... Mark, Goku's voice cut through the comms, urgent but controlled. Can you get the rest of the hostages out in the next 5 minutes? Not all of them, Mark admitted. The capsules are too well defended and we don't have enough people who can. Then I'm going to need to try something I've never done before. Goku said, something risky. He pressed his fingers to his forehead while simultaneously blocking Conquest's attack with his other hand, a feat of multitasking that should have been impossible. He reached out with his senses, feeling for the energy signatures of the remaining 5 hostages. Thraxan, Martian, 2 more Unopans, and something he didn't recognize but that felt terrified and alive. Instant transmission worked by locking onto Kai's signatures and teleporting to them. But what if, instead of teleporting himself, he teleported others? He'd never tried it before. The technique required touching the target, but maybe if he could create enough power, channel enough energy. This is either going to work really well, Goku said, his Super Saiyan 2 aura expanding to encompass a sphere of golden light dozens of meters across, or go really badly. Conquest, climbing out of the riverbed crater, saw what Goku was attempting and actually looked impressed. That's impossible. Instant transmission requires physical contact with. Goku's aura pulsed, and in 5 locations across Washington, D.C., the remaining hostages simply vanished from their capsules. They reappeared 1 second later in the center of the GDA command center, materializing in a startled heap of confused aliens who had no idea how they'd just been teleported across city blocks by pure Kai manipulation. Did he just? Robot's sensors struggled to process what they'd recorded. He teleported 5 targets simultaneously without physical contact using only energy manipulation. That's not how instant transmission works. That's not how any known teleportation works. Tell that to him, Mark said, watching through the command center windows as Goku's golden aura intensified even further. I think he just decided physics is optional. On the battlefield, Conquest's expression shifted from confidence to calculation. The hostages were gone, the tactical advantage neutralized, and the Saiyan was no longer holding back. Fine, Conquest said, his own power rising to match the new threat level. No more games. Let's see what you're really capable of when you stop pretending to be merciful. They met in the middle of the Potomac, their collision releasing a shockwave that displaced the entire river, sent walls of water crashing into the embankments, and shattered every window within a mile radius. They fought at speeds that made their earlier battle look slow, fists moving faster than sound, energy blasts that left afterimages burned into retinas, combat so intense that the ground beneath them began to superheat from the ambient energy. Goku landed a combination that would have killed a normal Viltrumite. Left hook to the ribs, right uppercut to the jaw, spinning kick that connected with enough force to create a sonic boom. Conquest absorbed all 3 hits, his Viltrumite physiology already beginning to heal, and countered with a tackle that drove them both through the Lincoln Memorial, reducing the historic structure to rubble. You're strong, Conquest admitted, his hands locked with Goku's in a test of raw strength. Stronger than I expected, but strength alone doesn't win wars, Saiyan. The Empire has endured for 10,000 years because we understand something you don't. What's that? Goku grunted, his muscles straining as he matched Conquest's pressure. That power without ruthlessness is just potential waiting to be exploited. Conquest headbutted Goku hard enough to crack the Saiyan's forehead, used the momentary disorientation to break their grapple, and drove his knee into Goku's solar plexus. The Saiyan doubled over, and Conquest grabbed him by the hair, lifting him up to make eye contact. The Armada arrives in 3 minutes, Conquest said. 50 Viltrumite warriors, each one trained for conquest, each one willing to die for the Empire. You can beat me, I'll even admit that openly. But can you beat all of them while protecting this entire planet? Can you be everywhere at once, Saiyan? Can you save everyone? Goku's response was to power up to Super Saiyan 3. The transformation was explosive, literally. His hair grew longer, golden and wild. His eyebrows disappeared, his power level multiplying by a factor of 4 in an instant. The release of energy created a mushroom cloud visible from space, an aurora of golden light that washed across the Western Hemisphere. Every sensor on Earth and in orbit registered it as a potential nuclear detonation. The Coalition, monitoring from their space station, saw readings that made their most powerful weapons look like children's toys. And in the stars above, the approaching Viltrumite Armada suddenly found its tactical calculations requiring revision. What is that? One of the Viltrumite commanders demanded, staring at energy readings that broke their instruments. That, said a familiar voice, is why I told you this would be interesting. Omni-Man floated beside the Armada's command ship, his presence unexpected and his expression unreadable. He'd been in deep space when he felt Goku's power spike, had traveled faster than light to witness what was happening to the planet he'd once called home. Nalen Grayson, the Viltrumite commander acknowledged warily. "You were ordered to return to Viltrum for debriefing regarding your failure on Earth. Why are you here?" "Because my son is down there," Omni-Man said quietly, watching the battle unfold on the ship's view screens. "And because something unprecedented is happening. That Saiyan, Goku, he's not fighting for conquest or glory. He's fighting because he genuinely believes protecting others is what strength is for." Omni-Man's expression was complex, conflicted. "And I want to see if he's right." On Earth, Goku stood in his Super Saiyan 3 form, his power so immense that the air around him shimmered with heat distortion. Conquest, for the first time in 1,000 years of conquest, felt something he'd almost forgotten: fear. "This is my strongest form," Goku said, his voice deeper, resonating with power. "I didn't want to use it because it burns through energy fast, and I don't know how long I'll be stuck in this universe. But you're right about one thing: 50 Viltrumites is too many to fight while holding back." He moved and Conquest couldn't track him. One moment the Saiyan was 100 yards away. The next, his fist was buried in Conquest's stomach, the impact so severe it actually bent the Viltrumite's supposedly indestructible spine. Conquest felt his ribs shatter, his organs rupture, his healing factor struggling to keep up with the damage. "So here's what's going to happen," Goku continued, his follow-up strikes coming so fast they seemed simultaneous. "You're going to surrender. You're going to tell that armada to turn around, and you're going to deliver a message to Thrag." "Never," Conquest spat blood, his pride refusing to accept defeat even as his body failed him. "Viltrumites don't surrender. We win or we die." "Then I guess you're dying," Goku said, and there was genuine sadness in his voice. "Because I gave you a chance, multiple chances. But you chose to use innocent people as weapons, chose to threaten civilians, chose everything except the honorable path." He grabbed Conquest by the throat and flew upward, accelerating to escape velocity in seconds, carrying the broken Viltrumite warrior into low orbit where the approaching armada could see clearly. "This is what happens," Goku's voice carried across open channels, amplified by Kai so every ship could hear. "When you mistake cruelty for strength. When you think conquest makes you powerful. Real power," he looked Conquest in the eyes, "is choosing mercy even when you don't have to." And he let Conquest go. The Viltrumite warrior plummeted toward Earth, his body too damaged to fly, falling like a meteor. But Goku didn't let him hit the ground. He used instant transmission to appear below Conquest, caught him gently, and lowered him to the GDA facility where medical teams were waiting. "Patch him up," Goku told Cecil. "He's done." The approaching armada stopped, 50 Viltrumite ships holding position just outside Earth's atmosphere. They'd watched Goku's display, seen their champion defeated with almost casual efficiency, witnessed power that defied their understanding of biological limits. One ship broke formation, descending toward Earth, Omni-Man's vessel. When Nolan Grayson touched down in the GDA courtyard, he found Goku waiting, his Super Saiyan 3 form fatting back to his base state, exhaustion finally showing on his face. "You're Mark's father," Goku said, not a question. "I am," Omni-Man confirmed, "and you're the Saiyan who just redefined what's possible." They stood in silence for a moment, two warriors from different universes, each carrying the weight of impossible choices. "I came back," Omni-Man said finally, "because I needed to see if what Mark believed was true, if strength could be used for something other than conquest, if I'd been wrong about everything the Empire taught me." He looked at the defeated Conquest, at the city Goku had protected despite impossible odds, at his son standing with the Guardians who'd once died by his hands. "I don't know if you were wrong," Goku admitted. "That's not my call to make, but I know what I believe, that protecting people isn't weakness, that holding back doesn't make you less powerful, it makes you choose when and how to use your strength. And that sometimes the hardest thing isn't winning the fight, it's choosing the right fight to begin with." In orbit, the Viltrumite Armada received new orders directly from Thrag. Observe only, do not engage, report everything. The Grand Regent was reevaluating strategies, considering variables he'd never needed to account for before. And Goku, standing in the ruins of monuments he'd failed to protect, but on a planet full of people he'd kept alive, realized that this universe's war was just beginning, and he just positioned himself at its center. The Viltrumite throne world existed in a state of calculated perfection, a planet conquered so thoroughly, so completely, that even its rotation had been adjusted to Viltrumite preference. The cities sprawled across continents like monuments to supremacy, each structure designed to remind the subjugated populations exactly who ruled them. And at the center of it all, in a palace built from the bones of a civilization that had dared resist, Grand Regent Thrag sat upon a throne carved from a single piece of obsidian and watched the recordings of Goku's battle with Conquest for the 17th time. "Pause," Thrag commanded, and the holographic display froze on the moment of Goku's transformation to Super Saiyan 3. The Grand Regent leaned forward, his ancient eyes studying every detail of the golden-haired warrior whose power readings had required his analysts to recalibrate their entire measurement system. Replay the energy spike analysis. The data scrolled past, numbers that suggested biological impossibility, power curves that defied known physics, transformation sequences that indicated Goku wasn't just strong but accessing something fundamental that Viltrumite science couldn't explain. Thrag had conquered for 8,000 years, had personally ended species that thought themselves invincible, and had reduced civilizations to ash with his bare hands. He knew power when he saw it. And Goku represented power he'd never encountered before. "Opinion," Thrag said to the assembled council of Viltrumite commanders who stood at attention around his throne. These were the Empire's elite, warriors who'd each conquered dozens of worlds, who'd survived battles that would have killed lesser beings, and every one of them looked disturbed by what they'd witnessed. Kreia, Thrag's daughter who'd faced Goku at the Coalition Station, spoke first. "He's stronger than any individual Viltrumite, including yourself, Grand Regent, but he fights with restraint that borders on tactical liability. He could have killed Conquest a dozen times, but chose a non-lethal resolution. That compassion is a weakness we can exploit." "Can we?" Thrag asked, his tone suggesting he already knew the answer. Conquest attempted exactly that strategy, used hostages, threatened civilians, created impossible scenarios. The Saiyan adapted, invented a new application of his teleportation ability specifically to neutralize our tactical advantage. He gestured to another segment of the recording showing Goku's simultaneous rescue of 5 hostages. "That's not compassion as weakness, that's compassion driving innovation." Another commander, a scarred veteran named Lucan who'd served since before Thrag's rise to power, cleared his throat. "Then we escalate beyond his capacity to adapt. The Empire has conquered thousands of worlds. We have resources, numbers, and time. One individual, no matter how powerful, cannot defend an entire galaxy. We force him to choose which worlds to save and destroy the ones he abandons." "Genocide as strategy," Thrag said, not quite a question. "Burn enough civilizations and eventually the Saiyan either spreads himself too thin or breaks psychologically. It's elegant in its brutality." He stood, his massive frame dwarfing even his elite warriors. "It's also exactly what he expects us to do. He's already positioned himself with the Coalition, already declared his intention to protect worlds from Viltrumite conquest. We follow that plan, and we're fighting his war on his terms." "Then what do you propose, Grand Regent?" Kreia asked. Thrag smiled, a cold, calculating expression that had preceded the fall of empires. "We change his terms. Goku fights to protect. That's his core motivation, his fundamental drive. So we don't attack what he can protect, we attack what he can't." He pulled up a star chart showing Earth, isolated and vulnerable, surrounded by Viltrumite-controlled space. "His homeworld is in another universe entirely, inaccessible and therefore irrelevant. But this Earth, the one he's chosen to defend, is very much accessible, and more importantly, Thrag's smile widened, it contains leverage. The holographic display shifted to show surveillance footage from Earth. Mark Grayson is training with Goku. Debbie Grayson is in her protected home. The Guardians of the Globe are coordinating defensive strategies. Cecil Stedman's Global Defense Agency operations. And dozens of civilians who'd been saved during the battle with Conquest, people who'd seen Goku as their protector. He forms attachments quickly, Thrag observed. Has already bonded with Invincible and the indigenous defenders, views them as allies worth protecting. So we don't attack Earth militarily, we infiltrate it, corrupt it from within, make him watch as the world he's protecting destroys itself, and ensure he understands that his presence caused it. Psychological warfare, Lucan said with dawning understanding. Turn his strength into the catalyst for Earth's downfall. Precisely, but we need to understand him better first. His capabilities, his limits, his psychology. Thrag turned to face his assembled commanders. I'm recalling the Armada. No further military action against Earth or coalition targets for now. Instead, we observe, we study. We learn everything about Saiyans, how they think, how they fight, what breaks them. And when we're ready, his fist clenched, crushing the armrest of his throne to powder, we don't just defeat him. We destroy everything he values and make him live with the knowledge that his power couldn't prevent it. On Earth, 3 days after the battle with Conquest, Goku sat in the GDA's medical bay watching doctors work on the still unconscious Viltrumite warrior. The damage he'd inflicted had been severe enough that even Viltrumite healing was struggling to compensate. Broken bones, ruptured organs, spinal trauma, injuries that would have killed almost any other species, but that Conquest would eventually recover from. You feel guilty, Robot observed from the doorway, his mechanical body's sensors tracking Goku's vital signs. Your heart rate elevates every time the medical monitors show pain responses. You didn't want to hurt him this badly. I gave him chances, Goku said quietly. Multiple chances to walk away, to surrender, to choose something other than fighting to the death. He kept choosing violence. And yet you still pulled your punches, Robot continued. Analysis of the battle footage shows you could have killed him in the first 30 seconds. Instead, you dragged the fight out, hoping he'd yield, hoping you wouldn't have to permanently harm him. Goku was silent for a moment. Back in my universe, some of my best friends started as enemies. Piccolo tried to conquer Earth. Vegeta worked for a tyrant who destroyed planets, but was pure destruction made flesh. But they changed. They chose to be better. He looked at Conquest's unconscious form. I keep thinking that maybe if I just show them there's another way, they'll take it. But these Viltrumites are products of a culture that spent 10,000 years perfecting Conquest, Robot finished. They don't see other ways because they've been conditioned from birth to believe their way is the only way. Attempting to redeem them individually is statistically futile. Maybe, Goku admitted, but I have to try. Because if I don't, if I just start killing everyone who threatens people without giving them a chance to change, then what makes me different from them? Mark entered the medical bay, his expression troubled. Goku, we need to talk. Cecil just got word from the coalition. The Viltrumite Armada has withdrawn completely, not just from Earth orbit, from the entire sector. They've pulled back to their core territories. That's good, right? Goku asked, though something in Mark's tone suggested otherwise. The coalition doesn't think so, Mark said. Alan says Viltrumites never withdraw unless they're planning something worse. Thrag doesn't retreat, he repositions. Mark pulled up a holographic display showing star charts with Viltrumite movements. They're consolidating forces, recalling scattered units, organizing into formations that suggest large-scale operations. But they're not attacking. They're just waiting. Goku frowned, his combat instincts telling him this was wrong. Waiting for what? That's what we're trying to figure out, Cecil's voice came through the intercom as he joined them in the medical bay. Our intelligence suggests Thrag is shifting strategy. Less direct military engagement, more intelligence gathering. They're studying you, Goku. Learning everything they can about how you fight, what you value, where your weaknesses are. I don't have weaknesses, Goku said, then caught himself. I mean, I do. Magic hurts more than it should, and Super Saiyan 3 burns through energy fast, but nothing they could really exploit right. Robot's optical sensors focused on Goku with unsettling intensity. Physical weaknesses are irrelevant. The Viltrumites have already determined they cannot defeat you through conventional combat, so they'll attack psychological vulnerabilities, attachments, loyalties, the people and places you've chosen to protect. They're going to use Earth against me, Goku realized, his expression darkening. Use the fact that I care about protecting people as a weapon. It's standard Viltrumite doctrine for asymmetric warfare, Cecil confirmed. When you can't beat an enemy directly, you make them defeat themselves, make the cost of victory unacceptable, force them to choose between winning and protecting what matters. Mark's fists clenched. My father did the same thing, told me I had to choose between joining the Viltrumite Empire or watching everyone I loved die slowly, made it personal, made it about impossible choices instead of simple strength. He looked at Goku. They're going to do everything they can to break you without ever fighting you. Then we need to be ready, Goku said, standing up from his chair. If they're planning something big, we should prepare. Train harder, get stronger, make sure everyone who might be targeted is protected. You can't protect everyone, Robot stated bluntly. Earth has 8 billion people. The coalition represents thousands of worlds with trillions of inhabitants. Viltrumite operations span galactic distances. You're powerful, but you're not omnipresent. They'll exploit that mathematical reality. So what do you suggest? Goku asked, frustration creeping into his voice. I just give up. Let them do whatever they want because I can't be everywhere at once. I suggest, Robot said, that you accept the limitations of heroism. Superman, were he real and in our universe, faces the same dilemma. Infinite need, finite capacity. The solution isn't trying to save everyone. It's strategic prioritization and accepting that some losses are inevitable. I don't accept that, Goku said firmly. There's always a way. I just need to figure out what it is. Alan the alien's voice crackled through the communication system, his transmission originating from Coalition space. Goku, I have an update from Coalition intelligence. We've intercepted Viltrumite communications suggesting they're interested in something called Saiyan biology. They're trying to understand your species at a fundamental level. How you transform, how you grow stronger, what your limits are. Why would they care about that? Mark asked. Because if they can understand how Saiyans work, Robot answered before Alan could, they can potentially replicate it, or weaponize it, or find ways to counter it. Biological warfare, genetic manipulation, targeted diseases, the Viltrumites have access to advanced technology from thousands of conquered civilizations. If they decide to engineer something specifically designed to kill Saiyans. I'm the only Saiyan in this universe, Goku said, so they'd be engineering something to kill just me. Exactly, Alan confirmed grimly. The Coalition has encountered Viltrumite bioweapons before. They're indiscriminate, horrific, and effective. If Thrag dedicates resources to creating something that targets your unique biology, you could be vulnerable in ways raw power can't protect against. Goku thought about the heart virus that had killed him in Trunks' timeline, remembered how helpless he'd been as the disease did what enemies couldn't. So we need to make sure they can't get samples of my biology. No blood, no tissue, nothing they could study. Too late for that, Cecil said, pulling up analysis from the battle sites. You bled during the fight with Conquest, multiple times. We collected what we could, but the Viltrumites had forces observing from orbit. It's safe to assume they have samples. The weight of that information settled over the room. Somewhere in Viltrumite laboratories, Scientists were likely already analyzing Saiyan DNA, looking for vulnerabilities, designing weapons specifically calibrated to kill Goku. How long until they could develop something? Mark asked. Unknown, Robot admitted. Depends on their technological sophistication and the complexity of Saiyan biology. Conservative estimate, weeks to months, but they could also be unsuccessful entirely if Saiyan physiology is too alien for their science to effectively weaponize. We can't count on them failing, Goku said. Need to assume worst-case scenario and plan accordingly. He looked at the assembled group, Mark, Cecil, Robot, and Alan, via hologram. What if we go on offense? Instead of waiting for them to attack, we hit their research facilities, disrupt their operations, make it harder for them to organize. That's exactly what they want you to do, a new voice said from the medical bay entrance. Omni-Man stood there, his expression unreadable. Thrag is a strategic genius with 8,000 years of experience. If you attack Viltrumite facilities, you're giving him exactly the pretext he needs to declare total war. Right now, there's ambiguity. You're defending Earth and coalition worlds, but you're not actively invading Viltrumite territory. The moment you cross that line, every faction in the galaxy that's been neutral suddenly has to choose sides. Your father makes a valid point, Cecil said, though his tone suggested he didn't enjoy agreeing with Omni-Man. The coalition is a defensive alliance. If you start offensive operations against the Viltrumite Empire, you risk fracturing that alliance. Some species will support you, others will see you as the aggressor. Goku turned to face Omni-Man directly. You came back. Why, last I heard, you were in deep space avoiding both the Empire and the coalition. Nalan met Goku's gaze steadily. Because Mark is here. And because I've been thinking about what you said about choosing the right fight, about strength being more than conquest. He paused, the words clearly difficult. I've spent 20 years on Earth, have a son I love, a wife I betrayed, and I can't reconcile the Viltrumite I was raised to be with the person Earth made me become. Watching you fight conquest, seeing you choose mercy even when it would have been easier to kill. I need to understand if that's actually possible. If someone with Viltrumite power can choose something other than domination. You're asking if you can be redeemed, Goku said quietly. I'm asking if redemption exists for someone who's committed the atrocities I have. Omni-Man's voice carried the weight of thousands of years and countless deaths. I've destroyed civilizations, Goku, killed billions in the Empire's name, murdered heroes who trusted me. Beat my own son nearly to death for refusing to help me conquer his homeworld. Can someone who's done those things ever be anything other than a monster? Goku thought about Vegeta, a proud Saiyan prince who'd killed innocents, worked for tyrants and committed genocides. Thought about how Vegeta had changed, slowly and painfully, into someone who protected rather than destroyed. I've known people who did terrible things and became good. It's possible, but it's hard. And it requires actually wanting to change, not just wanting forgiveness. I don't want forgiveness, Omni-Man said. I know I don't deserve it, but I want my son to have a father who isn't a conqueror. I want my wife to have a husband who chose her over an empire. And I want to know if I can help stop the Viltrumites without becoming exactly what I'm fighting against. Mark had been silent during this exchange, his expression complex and pained. Finally, he spoke. You beat me, nearly killed me, told me everyone I loved was insignificant, that Earth was just livestock to manage. Do you remember what you said when I refused to join you? Omni-Man's jaw clenched. I remember. Then you know why I can't just accept you're suddenly good now. Trust isn't something you get back just by asking nicely. You have to earn it, and I don't know if you can. I know, Nalan said quietly, but I'm going to try anyway, because you're my son and I failed you in every way that matters. So if helping protect Earth and fighting the Empire is what it takes to even begin making amends, then that's what I'll do. Goku watched the exchange between father and son, saw the pain and conflict in both their faces, and felt the weight of his own family's absence. He missed Kai Kai, missed Gohan and Goten, missed the simple clarity of protecting his Earth, where the lines between good and evil were usually clearer. "Okay," Goku said, breaking the tension. "We need a plan. The Viltrumites are planning something, we don't know what, and we need to be ready. Omni-Man, if you're serious about helping, we could use someone who knows how Thrag thinks. Mark, the Guardians need to be prepared for attacks that might target them specifically. Cecil, the GDA should increase protection for civilians who were visible during the Conquest battle. And Robot," he paused. "Actually, what have you been working on?" "You've been quieter than usual." Robot's optical sensors dimmed slightly, the mechanical equivalent of hesitation. "I've been developing contingencies, analyzing your combat data, calculating response scenarios, preparing defensive measures in case you're compromised or neutralized." "Contingencies against me?" Goku asked, not sure whether to be offended or impressed. "Against any threat that might emerge," Robot clarified, "including scenarios where you're mind-controlled, replaced by a shapeshifter, turned against Earth through manipulation, or simply unavailable when needed. It's basic strategic planning." "He's building ways to kill you if necessary," Mark translated, his tone suggesting he'd suspected this for a while. "Because that's what Robot does. Prepares for every possibility, including worst-case scenarios." "Batman did the same thing in his universe," Goku said, surprising everyone. "Superman told me about it once, how Batman had plans to take down every member of the Justice League if they went rogue. I thought it was paranoid then, but..." He shrugged. "Maybe it's smart. I don't plan on turning evil or getting mind-controlled, but if I do, someone should be able to stop me." "That's a remarkably mature perspective," Robot observed. "Most beings with your level of power would be offended by the implication they need oversight." "Most beings with my level of power in my universe have destroyed planets or tried to," Goku countered. "I've seen what happens when strong people don't have anyone who can check them. It's not pretty." An alarm interrupted the conversation, a priority alert from Coalition space. Alan's hologram flickered with urgency. "We have a situation. The Viltrumites just attacked a Coalition outpost on the edge of their territory. But they didn't conquer it, they grabbed every database we had on recent operations and withdrew. They're looking for something specific." "Looking for what?" Cecil demanded. "Intelligence on you, Goku," Alan said grimly. "Every mission report that mentioned you, every analysis of your battles, every piece of data the Coalition collected. They stole it all. So now they have a complete tactical profile," Robot calculated. "Known abilities, demonstrated limitations, behavioral patterns, strategic tendencies. They can predict your responses, plan around your capabilities, exploit patterns you don't realize you have." "That's not all," Alan continued. "They also took data on Earth's defensive capabilities, Coalition force dispositions, and..." He paused, clearly disturbed. "Records on dimensional travel research. The Coalition has been studying ways to navigate between universes since we encountered beings from other realities. It's theoretical work. Decades away from practical application, but if the Viltrumites have advanced technology from thousands of conquered species," Robot interrupted, "they might be able to accelerate that research, potentially access other dimensions, other universes." Goku felt his blood run cold. "They're trying to find my Earth, my real home universe." "That's the worst-case interpretation," Cecil said, but his expression suggested he believed it. "If they can access your home dimension, they have leverage that transcends anything in this universe. Your family, your friends, your entire planet, all potential targets." "We don't know they can actually do it," Mark said, trying to sound reassuring. "Dimensional travel isn't like flying between planets. It's complicated, maybe impossible with their technology." "They thought my power level was impossible until they encountered me," Goku said quietly. "We can't assume they can't do something just because it's hard." He stood, his expression hardening with resolve. "I need to get stronger, fast. If they're going to throw everything they have at me, bioweapons, tactical analysis, dimensional warfare, I need to be able to handle it. You're already the strongest being we've encountered, Alan said. How much stronger can you get? Goku thought about Ultra Instinct, about the mastery he'd achieved against Giant, about the forms and techniques he hadn't fully explored. A lot stronger. There are levels beyond Super Saiyan 3, forms I haven't mastered yet. And if I'm stuck in this universe, I have time to train without worrying about Earth being in immediate danger. He looked at Omni-Man. You want to help? Spar with me. Push me. I need to maintain these higher forms longer, fight at full capacity without burning out. You want to train with me? Omni-Man looked surprised. After everything I've done. You're strong, Goku said simply. Stronger than most people here, and fighting strong opponents is how I grow. Plus, if you're serious about changing, fighting to help someone protect people instead of conquer them, that's a good start. Mark looked like he wanted to protest, but Cecil spoke first. It's actually tactically sound. Omni-Man knows Viltrumite fighting styles and can simulate their tactics better than any training program. And if he's actually committed to defending Earth, putting him in a support role where we can monitor him, that's a manageable risk. I want to be there when they train, Mark said firmly. If my father is going to be anywhere near Goku, I'm supervising. Fair enough, Goku agreed. Besides, you could use the training too. You're strong, Mark, but you've got a lot of potential you haven't tapped yet. Your Viltrumite half gives you incredible durability and strength, but you fight like you're still learning. I can help with that. Over the next 2 weeks, an unusual alliance formed in the Nevada desert, where the GDA had established a secure training facility far from population centers. Goku trained with Omni-Man and Mark, pushing both Viltrumites to their limits while working on maintaining Super Saiyan forms for extended periods. The sessions were brutal, hours of combat that cratered landscapes and required satellite monitoring to ensure they didn't accidentally cause earthquakes. But something unexpected happened during that training. Omni-Man, fighting alongside his son for the first time since their brutal confrontation, began to remember why he'd fallen in love with Earth in the first place. Watching Goku refuse to give up even when exhausted, seeing Mark's determination to protect a world that Nalan had tried to conquer, hearing the Saiyans' laughter during combat because he genuinely enjoyed the challenge. It reminded Nalan of what he'd lost when he chose empire over family. You really do love fighting, don't you? Omni-Man asked during a break, watching Goku demolish his 15th meal of the day. Of course, Goku said between bites. Fighting strong people, pushing past limits, getting stronger, it's what Saiyans do, it's in our blood. He paused, his expression turning thoughtful. But it's not just about strength anymore. When I was a kid, yeah, I just wanted to be the strongest. But after having kids, after watching Gohan grow up, I realized fighting isn't the point. Protecting people is. Fighting's just the tool I use to do it. The Viltrumite Empire would call that weakness, Nalan said quietly, using strength to serve others rather than dominate them. Then the Viltrumite Empire is wrong, Mark said, joining the conversation. Real strength is choosing to help people who can't help themselves. Anyone can use power to hurt people. It takes actual strength to use it to protect. Nalan looked at his son, 17 years old and already wiser than warriors who'd lived millennia. When did you get so smart? I had good teachers, Mark said, and after a moment added, not you, but good teachers. The words hurt, but Nalan accepted them. He'd earned that pain. While Goku trained, the rest of Earth's defenders prepared for whatever the Viltrumites were planning. Robot developed new defensive technologies based on analysis of Goku's energy manipulation. The Guardians of the Globe ran drills for scenarios where they'd have to defend cities without Goku's support. Cecil coordinated with coalition forces to establish early warning systems across multiple star systems. And in the depths of the GDA's research facilities, scientists studied the biological samples they'd collected from Conquest, looking for any vulnerabilities in Viltrumite physiology that could be weaponized if necessary. It was dark work, preparing to fight a species that included beings like Mark, but Cecil had learned long ago that defending Earth required uncomfortable choices. 3 weeks after the Conquest battle, the message arrived. It came through every communication channel simultaneously: radio, television, internet, satellite feeds, and even emergency broadcast systems. The transmission was powerful enough to override security protocols, sophisticated enough to bypass firewalls, and targeted precisely enough to reach every device on Earth capable of receiving it. Thrag's face filled screens across the planet, his ancient features and cold eyes instantly recognizable to anyone who'd studied Viltrumite intelligence. "People of Earth," the Grand Regent's voice was calm, almost friendly. "I am Thrag, leader of the Viltrumite Empire. Your planet has become interesting to us. Specifically, you've harbored an individual called Goku, a Saiyan warrior who has demonstrated remarkable power and an unfortunate tendency to interfere with our operations." Goku, watching from the GDA command center alongside Mark, Cecil, and Omni-Man, felt his muscles tense. "I want to make something clear," Thrag continued. "The Viltrumite Empire has no interest in conquering Earth. Your planet is strategically insignificant, your technology primitive, your resources mundane. Normally, we would simply ignore you as we ignore thousands of other inferior worlds." "Here it comes," Omni-Man muttered, the threat disguised as mercy. However, Thrag's smile was predatory. "The Saiyan has made Earth significant through his actions. He has interfered with Viltrumite operations, allied with the Coalition, defeated our warriors, and established himself as a variable we cannot ignore. So I'm offering Earth a choice." The display shifted to show footage of Goku's battles against the Scouts, the Assault Team, and Conquest. Each victory highlighted, each demonstration of power emphasized. "Surrender Goku to Viltrumite custody," Thrag said, his tone conversational as if discussing the weather. "Allow us to study him, understand him, and determine if his power can be integrated into the Empire's strategic assets. Do this, and Earth will be granted protectorate status. You'll be left alone, permitted to develop as you wish, guaranteed freedom from Viltrumite intervention." "They're offering to leave Earth alone if we hand over Goku," Mark said, stating the obvious because the implications were too horrific to process silently. "Refuse," Thrag continued, "and Earth becomes an enemy of the Empire. Not through immediate invasion, that would be too crude. Instead, we'll ensure that every time the Saiyan leaves your planet to help the Coalition, to defend other worlds, to play hero across the galaxy, Earth suffers in his absence. Subtle infrastructure failures, economic disruptions, strategic targeting of individuals the Saiyan has shown attachment to." His eyes seemed to look directly through the camera at Goku. "We'll make you choose, Saiyan, between saving Earth and saving everyone else, between protecting your adopted home and fulfilling your heroic urges. And we'll do it slowly, methodically, until you break or surrender." The transmission ended, leaving billions of people across Earth staring at blank screens, processing the ultimatum that had just been delivered to their entire species. Mark struggled for words, "that's holding the entire planet hostage." "It's brilliant psychological warfare," Robot observed clinically. "He's not threatening immediate violence which would unite Earth against him. Instead, he's offering a seemingly reasonable exchange, one individual for planetary security, and positioning Goku as the source of Earth's danger. Public opinion will divide. Some will see Goku as Earth's protector, others as the reason we're targeted at all." Cecil's phone was already ringing with calls from world leaders demanding explanations, requesting meetings, asking what the GDA planned to do about an alien empire holding Earth hostage. He ignored them all, focusing instead on Goku's reaction. The Saiyan sat very still, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. "He's right about one thing. I did make Earth a target. If I hadn't fought his warriors, hadn't allied with the Coalition, Earth wouldn't be in this situation. Don't, Mark said sharply. Don't you dare blame yourself for defending people. The Viltrumites made themselves the problem the moment they decided conquest was acceptable. You're not the reason Earth's in danger, they are. But I am the reason Thrag is paying attention to Earth specifically, Goku countered. And now he's using that to try to manipulate me. Either I leave Earth vulnerable by going to help other worlds, or I stay here and watch the Coalition lose worlds they could have defended if I'd been there. It's an impossible choice designed to break me psychologically without ever fighting me directly. So what do? Omni-Man asked, genuinely curious. Goku was quiet for a long moment. Then his expression shifted, not to despair or anger, but to the determined focus he always got when facing an impossible challenge. I do what I always do when someone gives me an impossible choice. I reject the premise and find a third option. He stood, his power level beginning to rise, golden aura flickering around him. Thrag thinks he can make me choose between Earth and the galaxy. But what if I don't have to? What if I get strong enough, fast enough, skilled enough that I can protect both? What if I master the techniques I've been holding back on, push past Super Saiyan 3, access the forms I've only touched in my home universe? You're talking about Ultra Instinct, Robot said, having studied Goku's occasional mentions of the technique. The autonomous combat state that allows perfect defense and offense without conscious thought. According to your descriptions, even gods struggle to master it. Yeah, Goku admitted. It took me a long time to access it even briefly back home, and I've never maintained it for more than a few minutes, but if I could master it here, if I could fight at that level consistently. His grin returned, that familiar expression of excited determination. Then I could be everywhere Thrag sends threats, could protect Earth and the Coalition simultaneously, could move fast enough, fight efficiently enough that he can't exploit my limitations anymore. That's a massive assumption, Cecil said, banking Earth's safety on you achieving a transformation you've barely managed before. You got a better plan, Goku asked, because I'm open to suggestions. We could actually consider his offer, a new voice said from the command center entrance. Amanda Waller stood there, the director of Task Force X, looking every bit as ruthless as her reputation suggested. One individual exchanged for planetary security. The math is simple. Absolutely not, Mark said immediately. We're not handing Goku over to be experimented on by the same empire that genocides billions. Why not? Waller asked coldly. He's not from this Earth. He showed up 3 weeks ago through some dimensional accident. Why should 8 billion people risk Viltrumite retaliation for someone who has no actual connection to our planet beyond choosing to defend it? Because that's what heroes do, Mark shot back. They defend people who need defending, and we don't betray people who have helped us just because it's strategically convenient. Idealism doesn't protect cities when the Viltrumites start their subtle warfare, Waller countered. Goku leaves to help the Coalition. Thrag orders infrastructure attacks. Power grids fail. Water treatment plants malfunction. Transportation systems collapse. How many people die from accidents before we admit the math doesn't work in Goku's favor? Goku listened to them argue about his fate, about Earth's safety, about impossible choices and utilitarian calculations. It reminded him of arguments he'd heard before. Vegeta insisting mercy was weakness, Piccolo arguing for pragmatic solutions, Bulma calculating odds. But this felt different because these people didn't know him, didn't have years of friendship and trust to fall back on. He was a stranger to this Earth, and Waller was right about the math, even if she was wrong about the morality. I'll make this easy, Goku said, his voice cutting through the argument. I'm not surrendering to Thrag, and I'm not leaving Earth defenseless while I help the Coalition. So I'm going to train harder than I've ever trained before. I'm going to push past every limit, access every form, and master every technique I've been holding back on. And I'm going to become strong enough that Thrag's threats don't matter because I can counter all of them simultaneously. And if you fail, Waller asked, if you can't achieve this impossible power-up quickly enough, and people start dying because of your presence here. Goku met her eyes steadily. Then I'll deal with that when it happens, but I'm not giving up before I've even tried. That's not who I am. The room fell silent. Finally, Cecil spoke. You have 1 month. 1 month to get strong enough that we have a viable defense against Thrag's strategy. After that, we reassess based on results. He looked at Waller. And nobody discusses surrendering Goku without my authorization. He's Earth's asset and the GDA doesn't abandon assets. 1 month, Goku repeated, nodding. That's plenty of time. Omni-Man laughed, a short, sharp bark of sound. You're either the most optimistic warrior I've ever met or the most delusional, possibly both. Probably both, Goku agreed cheerfully. But optimism's kept me alive through impossible odds before. Might as well stick with what works. He left the command center, heading for the training facility where he'd spend the next month pushing himself to limits that would have killed most beings. Mark followed him out, catching up in the hallway. You really think you can do it? Mark asked. Master a god-level technique in a month? I don't know, Goku admitted, but I'm going to try. Because the alternative, letting Thrag dictate terms, letting people suffer because I'm not strong enough, that's not acceptable. He looked at Mark with unexpected seriousness. Your dad asked if redemption was possible, if someone who's done terrible things can become something better. I think it is. But it requires actually doing the work, making the hard choices, being willing to suffer to protect people instead of dominate them. Why are you telling me this? Mark asked. Because you're going to have to decide about your father, Goku said. Whether to trust him, whether to give him a chance to prove he's changed. And I can't tell you what the right choice is, that's yours to make. But I can tell you that people can change if they genuinely want to. I've seen it happen. Doesn't mean it's easy or guaranteed or that it erases what they've done. But it's possible. Mark was quiet for a moment. He beat me, nearly killed me, told me everyone I loved was worthless. I know, Goku said, and that's something you'll carry forever. The question is whether you can also carry the possibility that he might become someone different, someone who actually deserves to be your father. He smiled slightly. No pressure, though. Like I said, your choice. I just wanted you to know that change is possible, even for people who seem too far gone. As Goku headed to the training facility, Mark stood in the hallway processing everything. Behind him, through the command center windows, he could see his father talking with Cecil and Robot, planning defensive strategies and offering intelligence on Viltrumite tactics. Omni-Man was trying, actually trying to help instead of conquer, trying to be a father instead of an agent of Empire. Whether that was enough remained to be seen. In the Viltrumite throne world, Thrag watched Earth's communication networks, analyzing reactions to his ultimatum. The planet was dividing exactly as predicted, some factions demanding Goku's surrender, others insisting on defending him, politicians calculating odds while civilians panicked. It was beautiful chaos, the kind of psychological warfare that Thrag had perfected over millennia. The Saiyan will try to become stronger, Kreia observed. He'll train, push himself, attempt to access greater power. Of course he will, Thrag said. It's what warriors do when faced with impossible odds. They train harder, fight smarter, reach for transformations they haven't mastered. His smile was cold. And while he's focused on personal growth, I'll be dismantling everything he's trying to protect. Not through direct combat, that's what he expects. Through infiltration, corruption, and turning his allies against each other. He pulled up files on Mark Grayson, on the Guardians of the Globe, on Cecil Stedman's operations. Every organization has fractures. Every alliance has tensions. We just need to find them and press until they break. He gestured to a particular file, Amanda Waller's profile. This one is already suggesting surrender. We cultivate that perspective, make it seem reasonable, drive wedges between Goku's defenders until Earth's unity crumbles. And if he actually succeeds, Kreia asked, if he masters this ultra instinct and becomes as powerful as he claims. Then we've learned something valuable about Saiyan limits, Thrag said calmly, and we adjust our strategy accordingly. I've been conquering for 8,000 years, daughter. I've faced every kind of opponent, the strong, the clever, the desperate, the noble. They all fall eventually because conquest isn't about single battles. It's about systematic pressure applied until resistance becomes impossible. He stood, walking to the viewport that showed countless stars, each one representing systems under Viltrumite control. The Saiyan thinks he can reject my choice and find a third option. He doesn't understand that I've already accounted for that. Every path leads to the same destination, his power serving the Empire, willingly or otherwise. It's just a question of how much suffering it takes to get there. The message was sent to sleeper agents across Earth, Viltrumites who'd been embedded in human society for decades, waiting for activation. Not to attack, but to influence. To spread doubt, to amplify divisions, to make Goku's presence seem like a curse rather than a blessing. The war for Earth had begun, but it wasn't being fought with fists and energy blasts. It was being fought in hearts and minds, in television debates and social media arguments, in the quiet spaces where people decided what they believed and who they trusted. And Goku, training in the Nevada desert, pushing himself toward ultra instinct while the world he'd chosen to protect slowly turned against itself, had no idea how much danger Earth was actually in.